The following broadcast is intended for mature audiences. These are real people sharing very real, deeply personal experiences. This content may be considered triggering for others and for those who are sharing. The chat room is a privilege intended for discussions and sharing. You are not being asked to agree, but you are being asked to stay civil and refrain from personal attacks. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, welcome back. It's a new year for Am I Mental? I am your host, E. And with us, as always, is our co-host, Bexy.
Hey, guys.
Yes, Am I Mental, the weekly, well, mostly weekly podcast where we talk to real people sharing real experiences with living with mental health issues. And of course, as we normally do, so I gotta start off right fast. I promised apps for iOS and Android. They're coming. It's out of my hands. They're paid for. We're just waiting for the delivery of them. So they are coming. And unfortunately, SAD got the best of me during this holiday season, and I did not update anything on the website. So I'm sorry. But that said, if you like what you hear, you think we're doing a good job, share our episodes, especially ones that you think will resonate with people that might be struggling, especially this time of year. COVID's on the rise again. It's a new year. We're going through absolute chaos here in the U.S. right now. And I mean, this whole pandemic's it's a global problem as well. So definitely share it. If you want to help us more, go to amimental.net/donate. There's a number of ways to donate, and we also have merchandise. So you could get yourself a Am I Mental face mask, t-shirts, hoodies, tote bag, whatever. And if there's anything you want, go ahead and let us know. You can reach me at amimental.net. That said, we have our first ever international guest.
Yay!
We have Laura, all the way from Canada.
Hello!
But she is the first of 3 that we have scheduled over all the way through May. We actually are scheduled out for 2 seasons right now, which is incredible. So Laura, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and what we're going to be talking about.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Really, it's an honor and a privilege to be here. You guys are awesome, and this podcast is awesome. My name is Laura, and I'm 33, and I'm coming to you from Toronto, Canada. Yes, it's very cold. And we too are dealing with SAD over here. Well, my journey with mental health started at a very, very young age. As I mentioned when we spoke earlier, I actually saw my very first therapist at the tender age of 3. So that was, and I actually have memories of this. I was a very hyperactive, highly sensitive child. Apparently, I used to wander the halls of my house at night, just begging for attention and for, some love and care from my parents. And my father is a psychopharmacologist. So this was, in 1990 or so. And they put me in therapy, and I drew pictures and played with toys, just like you see in the movies. And I saw this therapist, I think, till I was about 6 or 7 years old. And I don't even know what the diagnosis was, but, that was my first foray sort of into the world of professional, help when it comes to mental health. The next kind of major milestone I can remember was I was about 12. And I just remember feeling like depressed and even suicidal at that age, and anxious and restless and fearful of everything, and, feeling incredibly misunderstood. And I just felt like I experienced the world at a much higher volume than other people. So I was put into a group therapy setting at a hospital. And I was put promptly on, they tried everything on me: Paxil, Celexa, Zoloft, everything. I used to, make suicide attempts. And I was begging my parents for help, and, nothing seemed to be working.
And I'm sure that you and I could compare notes on Paxil.
Oh yeah, that was a fun one. You know, yeah, and Celexa was fun too. Apparently didn't work on me.
Yeah, I consider Paxil. Paxil for me was the flatline drug. I felt nothing emotionally at all. I couldn't get happy, sad, angry, nothing.
Yeah, see, but for me, it's so hard to remember because I was only 12 and I didn't, realize what these drugs were, what they were doing to me, and it was so scary because it wasn't being something consulted with me, it was with my parents, right? So I wasn't being informed. No one told me what was happening to me and why I was feeling the way I was feeling. I was just being medicated, and being told something was wrong with me. And that made me more depressed and more anxious. So, that's so hard. Anyone who struggles with mental health, period, it's challenging, especially as a child. It's such a scary existence. And I felt so abnormal, and so different. And, I went into high school and I was sharing with you earlier, I remember I had to see a psychotherapist twice a week for my whole time in high school. And he was actually very anti-medication, which was interesting. And, this was in the mid 2000s, right? So not that long ago. And I would lie about where I was going because back then there was even a stigma about getting, mental health help. And I had so much shame and embarrassment. I told my friends I was going to see a chiropractor. So I'm not sure if anyone out there can relate to that, that hiding of, I need help and I can't really share it with my friends. And it was this secret thing I carried with myself.
I can't relate with that because I personally have always just been, here I am. This is me out in the open. Accept me for who I am or piss off. That's kind of been my whole attitude in life.
That's a good, and I'm more like that now, and I wish I had that, but I was very concerned with what other people thought of me. Like I lived in a dysfunctional household, I lived with an alcoholic parent.
Same.
Yeah. And only in adulthood have I realized the mental health, psychological traumatic impacts that had on me.
Same.
Yeah. And you don't realize because it's the only normal, right? Like and you don't realize what's happening.
My parent wasn't an alcoholic until my grandfather died, and then fell into alcoholism. So I got to watch the slide into it, and then just the change in personality, the betrayal of my trust, all sorts of stuff. I mean, it was bad. So I can imagine what it'd be like, growing up with an alcoholic parent, because at least I had the ability to be able to contrast between the two. Mm-hmm. Where a lot of other people don't have that, and I'm sorry that you didn't have that.
Yeah, it's challenging, and you don't know, because it's wrong, it's not right, but you don't know why. It's you can't seem to figure it out, and like I have to say, if there's anyone out there listening who grew up in a dysfunctional home, and especially with an alcoholic parent, there is actually specialized help available. There are programs called like Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families that really help, that I've accessed myself, and they're free and they're actually available online, so you can access them during COVID. If you just plug it in, you'll find fellowships for that. And that really affected me in such a horrible way. And then I sort of kind of got through. I managed to somehow get into university. I don't know how I pulled it off, considering I was so mentally ill. And at this point, I was on and off medication.
Anyone that's on medications knows it's pretty unhealthy to be on and off of medication.
Oh, they tried everything with me. I was like a little guinea pig, and I was only 20 at this point, right? Yeah, it's so. They didn't seem to be able to find anything that worked for me, because I know finding the right regimen of medication is very difficult. And I know, like, I eventually had to go see a specialist. I was lucky enough, where I live, there is a very famous place called the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. And I was able to access a psychopharmacologist who actually gives different sort of regimens, and that would help. So, like, after they've met with you, and then she gave them to my GP. So my GP could then fix, titrate, move around, not just kind of fumbling around in the dark, which I know a lot of GPs do, especially with psychiatric illness.
Well, to become a GP, you don't take a lot of psychology.
No, you don't.
And you definitely don't take a lot of brain chemistry.
Yeah, no, you just write, you write the prescriptions and off you go. And like I'm grateful to say that, luckily, that is, I live in Canada, so our healthcare system, like that is covered, thankfully. And in Canada, like psychiatrists who are medical doctors are free. But that's the other thing that I'm a really big advocate of is affordable access to mental health. Like just to see a psychologist or a therapist can sometimes $250. And this is a public health crisis, for people who are struggling. And I'm a big advocate for, affordable access. But I've been in every kind of therapy. I've been in CBT. I've been in psychoanalysis, very Freudian. And I'm now at the point where I never need to talk about my childhood again. It has been beaten to death. Like, I know it was fucked up. It was fucked up. I don't need to talk about it anymore. I don't want to talk about my dreams. So I've been through it all. And like they only officially diagnosed me with what I had when I was about 22. I had a massive breakdown at university. I was so depressed I could barely walk. I was almost catatonic, and they finally diagnosed me with generalized anxiety disorder and major depressive disorder. And since then, now I'm 33, I've been diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder as well. And so they've put me on one of the most, I don't know if anyone who's listening has been on this, but I'm sure they have, Seroquel. Oh, Seroquel. I don't know. It's like a horse tranquilizer, I'll tell you.
Whew.
It's a powerful antipsychotic and very effective. But that was my first foray into really, really serious like sedative drugs. And I gained a shit ton of weight, which was very distressing as well. And that makes you like a zombie. It really, really is quite a heavy duty drug. And here I am, 22 years old, and they're just dosing it out. You know what I mean? And
well, you can't feel anything when you're a zombie, so win?
Yeah, I guess. I was like, oh, I can't feel anything. Like, oh, here I am. I want this numbing effect.
No, it's like that. It's like that meme with Benadryl. It's like you can't feel allergies when you're in a coma.
Oh yeah. Well, and
definitely.
Here's an aspect of my story I didn't mention. I'm actually an alcoholic. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've been sober for 4.5 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congrats on that.
Yeah, that. And so I have been to hell and back when it comes to addiction. That is, to me, it is a matter of mental health. It is not a moral issue. It is a physical issue. It is a health issue. It is a psychological issue. And I drank to feel relief from myself. It was the best anesthetic I could find to feel numb. No drug did for me. No psychiatric drug did for me what alcohol could do for me. And I burned my life to the ground. So that also, and I remember being I would take my crazy, strong psychiatric drugs and drink because I was like, oh, this is perfect. A double whammy. You know what I mean?
Which every bottle warns against that for a reason.
But someone like me, I was like, oh, feeling nothing, not experiencing life. This is wonderful. And,
right. It's like that. Not feeling at all is an improvement from feeling like shit.
Exactly. I just wanted desperate relief, right? I just wanted to check out, and just that whole thing. It obviously made the depression worse, and it made the anxiety worse. I remember waking up, because alcohol is a depressant, and the rebound effect is massive anxiety. So those chest pains, I woke up, I was shaking, I was in total fear for the things that I had done. And I was in my 20s, so I was like, there's no way I can be an alcoholic at the tender age of 26, but there I was. And it's such a scary place because to me, drinking was like slow suicide. It was slow suicide. I was like, well, right now I'm too scared to actually off myself. I can slowly drink myself to death,
Right.
Yeah. And we have a couple of congratulations in the chat for you.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, no, if anyone's out there listening and you're struggling with addiction, my God, you are so not alone. You are not alone. And I'll reiterate, it's not a moral failing. It's not a willpower thing. It's not a control thing. It's it is a physical, mental, and spiritual issue. and it is a health issue. And I personally got sober through AA, and it's not for everybody. There's a lot of really great resources. AA is not the only way. There's Smart Recovery, which I've heard really wonderful things about, and it is possible. Like I was basically I almost died. I had gastroenteritis at 29. I was vomiting every day all the time, and I just got desperate enough to ask for help. And it getting sober, actually, this is kind of what's interesting, is when I got sober, I guess this is also part of my story. I was living in Mexico up until about a month ago. And when I was in Mexico, I had a massive mental breakdown in June of 2020. And I realized that after 4 years of sobriety, I had not accessed therapy. And I was a completely different person. Getting sober is also traumatizing in and of itself, having to process all the shit that happened when you were drinking. And I had a complete and utter meltdown. So I had to access psychiatric care in Mexico, which was a very interesting process. But I was able to be prescribed the right stuff, thankfully. And I crawled out of that hole. I got off the wonderful drug Effexor. If anyone's out there who's been on it, I'm sure you know what a nightmare the withdrawals can be.
I had it for 2 days, and it was hell. Like, it was literally the 2 most miserable days of my life.
It really fucks some people up. Yeah, my dad took.
My wife is on it, and she loves it.
Lucky.
Oh.
Yeah, I was on it for about 7 years, and I was fine. And then for whatever point, it just stopped working for me. And getting off of it was 2 weeks. It was vomiting. It was like withdrawals. It was almost as hard as withdrawing from alcohol, to be honest. And so now I'm on a wonderful sort of menu, a cocktail of drugs as we speak, and just starting to access therapy for trauma. I'm learning a lot about trauma because, as we discussed, like the work that people have done in the last 10 years in regards to trauma has been transformational. That, post-traumatic stress disorder is not just a wartime thing or a car accident thing. People with difficult childhoods are traumatized. And I didn't even realize that I was having dissociative episodes. I had days where I was literally floating outside of my body. Like, I was like watching myself. It was the most bizarre thing. And I understand. I was told that's a dissociative event. And trauma is a fairly new field. And I'm really grateful that they're finally starting to sort of address that. And, you don't need to be in a car accident to be traumatized.
Right. It doesn't have to be a life-threatening situation. It could just be high stress for long periods of time. That'll do it.
Exactly. And the things it actually changes the structure of your brain. And there's a lot of really great, I read the book, The Body Keeps Score. I could only read it very little bits at a time because it was so overwhelming, but help me understand that it's a physiological thing at this point. Your brain actually changes, and when you're reliving a traumatic event, your body goes back to that traumatic event physically, the fight, flight, fawn, freeze. And so I'm sort of dealing with that now and unraveling it now.
That's actually what's kind of funny is that ties into a lot of what Rachel Conway, someone who's kind of a regular on the show, her practice has picked up really big, which is why she wasn't on last season, and she's not coming on this season or even next season. But she does want to come on at least once a year. But she was talking about how you're talking about it changes your brain chemistry. It's also as a part of epigenetics, which is not that the gene is there, it changes how it's expressed or not expressed, which can cause fight or flight over certain situations. And then that could get genetically passed on.
Yeah, and I've learned a lot about intergenerational trauma. And like I don't know about anyone who's listening, but I'm Irish. Like my grandparents were born in Ireland, and so even our body stores, so their trauma from like famine, right, is actually stored in their bodies and passed down in our bodies, like metabolize food differently. I mean, it's really crazy. And how these, intergenerational traumas, so alcoholics pass to other alcoholics, you know what I mean? And it's breaking the family curses. And, this is the aspect of like, I see this as a process of recovery. Mental health is like is a process of recovery and trying to not just survive, but be able to live, I still have days where I feel like I'm dragging my feet, you know what I mean? And I'm just like carrying the weight of the world on my shoulder. And
Bexy just dropped a really good book. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's The Body Keeps the Score, Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma.
Yes,
that's the book she was talking about.
Oh, that was, sorry.
I found the link for it.
Yeah, she shared the link.
Who may want to.
Yeah, it is incredible. The man who wrote that, there's also videos of him giving like at a what are those things called? Like where he's speaking like at an educator, like a lecture. A lecture, yeah. And it's transformational. So if you're struggling with like flashbacks, with even the fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses, like I learned that like my fear response, like fear, like I freeze, I feel it in my chest. I feel my fear like jolt in my body. And that's a trauma response. And I didn't know that. I thought there was just something wrong with me, or, that this is just the way I was. But like, no, it's like, this is a reaction to trauma.
Okay. So what the hell traumatized me?
Well,
because
you get to figure that out in therapy, I guess.
Yeah. Because my fear response, it almost feels like an electric current goes through my body.
That's really interesting. I feel similar. And it's interesting if you read that book and you start paying attention sort of like in what situations does that happen. There might be common denominators. Like it could even just be tone of voice sometimes I find with certain people. Or even like
project. The big thing with me is tone of voice. A change in someone's tone of voice affects me. I just freeze.
Yeah, I'm and we were talking about this too, Betsy, like, and well, like also with you too, is like I'm a very highly sensitive person and an empath. And so I'm very sensitive to like light, to sound, to emotion. Like I feel emotions radiating off of people and I absorb them. And some people think that like some made up thing. I'm like, no, it's real. Like being an extreme empath and there's a book called The Highly Sensitive Person, and there's scientific evidence for these things, that it's not like you're sensitive in a bad way. It's like, no, like this is just who you are. And it's actually a gift in a lot of ways as well to be highly sensitive.
The very best piece of advice I have ever been given about being an empath is 3 simple words. Care, don't carry. You can care about someone, but you do not have to carry their emotions with you. And that has helped me so much.
I had to gasp.
Yeah, I love those like little sayings. One thing I learned also was I'm not responsible for other people's feelings. Mm-hmm. Like I am not responsible for other people's feelings. And as a child growing up in an alcoholic and dysfunctional home, I felt so fucking responsible, because the roles were reversed. I had a parent who was, drunk, passed out, and they would also put their anger on me, and I felt personally responsible. You know what I mean? And if you're the child of an alcoholic, like it really fucks you up more than you know. Really, it's a profound traumatic thing. And that's why I love that we're able to sit here and talk about this stuff, because we can share these things that we've learned and like how we cope and how we get through and how we're, getting through life. Like it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah, we have a couple comments. My fear response is fight because my trauma was caused by freeze. And Devern said, I was very sensitive as a kid, but it got lost.
And it's May, not my. I got it correct. Sorry. Yeah, I got corrected on that one. I got the phone call. No, it's May. Okay.
That's really, it's interesting to learn about our fight or flight responses. And I didn't know that fawn was one. So like, I've also dealt with, malignant narcissists. I had a very abusive stepfather growing up, and learning about fawn that's also a way to cope, is you're very nice, very kind, overcompensating, going out of your way to do things for people. That's another trauma response. And it's fascinating. And also the comment about the sensitivity thing, like, I get that too, to go from being very sensitive to like nothingness, but that's a survival mechanism. I think that's like how we survive sometimes. And wow, these are really like powerful things to be hearing from other people.
Right. And also I still also think that I don't think that everyone's like born hypersensitive. I think that you can become hypersensitive or extra sensitive as a survival the coping mechanism, because your own survival can depend on how you come across to others. Like, will you trigger, like, say, the anger of your parent, or will you trigger someone else's like really extreme negative response, or so you're just like always on the lookout. What can I say? What can I do in order to not get that?
Yeah, you're having to always like think ahead, right? And plan, and it's true. And you're trying to anticipate other people's needs and like read the room so you know when to be able to run, or you know what you're going to expect, right? It's a survival technique, I think. And
right.
And
so I just posted a link to an article about understanding fight, flight, freeze, and the fawn response to trauma.
That's amazing. There's, I gotta say, like, if people are identifying with trauma, like, there's now people actually like offering specialized therapy. I've heard a lot about it's eye movement rapidization, something. It's basically retraining the brain. You're like processing the traumatic memory, and it's very interesting. There's like a lot of new things that have been firing cope with trauma. And there is actually, before just like, because I remember in the Body Keeps Score, they were talking about how, all these, quote, shell-shocked veterans came back from, Vietnam, and they had no idea what the hell to do with them. You know what I mean? And only then did they realize that, oh, this is like post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't think it was added to the DSM until the 1980s or something like that, to be honest with you. So I'm really happy to see that there are strides being made there with people, for sure.
Yeah, and then there's that, as you're talking about that rapid eye movement thing, is something similar to that Rachel brought up, where you could even just like if you put your hands on your shoulders, crossing your arms, and just going back and forth like this can help a lot too.
The tapping, I've heard really good things about the tapping. And I also find like part of my sort of sobriety thing was also meditation. And it was really hard for me to meditate because I find it very hard to go inside myself because it can be very dark and scary in there sometimes. But I found meditation, like, I don't know about you guys, but I can be an overachiever and a perfectionist. So I was like, okay, so I need to be like Gandhi. And my first meditation, I'm going to do it for 30 minutes and I'm going to be perfect. No, I started out doing 30 seconds to 1 minute and just like being able to breathe. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I catch myself holding my breath sometimes for no reason and clenching my jaw, and I'm all tense, and like mindfulness has helped me sort of become aware that I'm actually like in a really, really, really like rigid, not breathing state, even when everything around me is fine. So mindfulness has helped me as well. Like, it sounds a bit hokey, but it actually like does work, like coming back to the moment for me, like wiggling my toes and like, I'm in this moment, I'm in this present moment, I'm not in the past, I'm not in the future, I'm in this moment now. And that helps me a lot.
Yeah, mindfulness is awesome. I learned that going to the anxiety treatment center that we have here in the Sacramento area, where we actually, every day, you had to go out and have a mindfulness walk. No talking was allowed.
That's it's actually so nice because I can't remember the last time I even did that, where I walked in instead of, I'm like pre-planning in my head, I'm planning getting to the store and planning what I'm going to say to the cashier, like all these things, not just being in the moment and enjoying the walk. That's actually very nice. I might actually have to try that because all I can do is walk right now because there's something else to do.
And I love to walk.
That that is nice. I find like, well, I'm in well, you guys are probably able to be outside right now, but it is very cold where I am. But yeah, I find being outside is peaceful, but like there are like, I'm still on crazy meds, but I do believe that there are like things or tools in my toolkit, that can be helpful that aren't necessarily pharmaceutical, but obviously drugs help me immensely. And obviously getting sober helped too, but that, unleashes a whole nother set of problems. Getting sober is, how do I live sober? Wow.
So to give you an idea, I'm a mountain boy originally. Like, I grew up at the base of a 14,000 foot volcano.
Oh, wow.
At 35 feet, 3,500 people at 3,500 feet in elevation. And I'm going to be nice because I know that, you guys, you use the metric system here and you use Celsius and not Fahrenheit. I walk around outside in t-shirts and shorts when it's only like 4.5 degrees.
You'd fit right in Canada. That's what people do here too.
Yeah. And actually, what's funny is there's a joke that one of my friends said, and I've shared it with other Canadians, and they loved it. Is that I do Canadian flip flops. I don't put on I don't put on socks. I just stick my shoes in my feet in my shoes. Don't tie them. Just walk around that way.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. That is a Canadian flip flop. It is, and like, well, I guess we could talk about sad too, like, because anyone who's living in a cold, like, I was noticing it's dark still at 5:00 today, and it's gray, and I'm just like, oh yeah. My God, the winter is such a killer. Because even going from Mexico, and I was saying to you guys, I sometimes had, like, I don't know if anyone who's listening can relate, but I found when I was living in a climate where it was actually sunny and nice all the time, actually it fucked me up a little bit, because I'm like, oh, it's sunny and it's nice. Like, I have to be out. I have to be productive. I have to be amongst the normies out, and, and then when it's shitty weather, you have permission to sort of stay inside. So it was like a weird flip side of living in a very nice climate. So, when it's cold and gray and snowy here, I'm like, oh, great, I can hibernate and isolate, which I love to do. Because, I'm an anxious, depressed person. So I love, I find being around people can be quite exhausting, just that whole experience.
You want to hear about a conflict?
Yes.
I'm an anxious extrovert.
An anxious extrovert.
I am.
Okay, so isn't the thing, okay, so introvert, so I find, I do get my energy from people. I do get energy when I interact with people, but after about 2 hours, I'm done. So What is that? Is it introvert or extrovert? What is that?
I don't think that anybody's 100% one or the other. You're probably more introvert with some extrovert tendencies. Like my daughter is that way, where, and Betsy still talks about her and her freakishly long toes.
Hey, I love that child and her toes that are long as fuck. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, and she's the kind of same way. She's extrovert when she'll get this urge. She has to be an extrovert for a little while, and then after like a couple hours, she's done for the day. Where me, I could be be around people for 8, 10, 12 hours, and I'm good.
Oh my God, sir, I don't know how you.
But
I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, but getting myself into that situation is difficult.
After a couple hours, I need to get out of there.
Maxie, I'm the same as you. I'm done. 2 hours. I'm like, I do the Irish goodbye where you slip out and you don't say anything to anybody. I like just disappear. That's,
that can't happen in Texas, because goodbye takes at least an hour. You start by saying, oh, well, we really should get going. But you still sit there and you talk for a little bit, and then you finally get up and you make your way toward the door, but there's more goodbyes and hugs to give. And
okay, so basically I'm a Texan that's stuck in California. That's what I'm hearing.
Like, this is people think it's so funny. I'm like, I'm doing an Irish goodbye. I'm just going to slip out and then text people later if they care. You know what I mean? Like,
so you just ninja your way out of there.
That's pretty much, like, I find, but it's so interesting to hear, like, different, like, even just hearing that another person finds it exhausting to be around other people for more than 2 hours makes me feel more okay. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about you guys, but, like,
we're not alone in the whole, oh my God, I really just need to get out of here because I've been around people too long.
It's for me, I feel like sometimes I put so much like energy, and like, again, it's like the hyper awareness, the hypersensitivity, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm extra alert when I'm around people. Like, I like people, but I find them incredibly exhausting. Like, in social interactions, I find, like, I get along with people well, but I just find social interactions can be very draining.
With me, there are certain people that I can hang out with and feed off their energy for longer than that. Like E. I've spent hours on the phone and never felt like, oh man, I need to get off the phone. I need to hang up.
Yeah, I guess, like, yeah, that's true. Like, yeah, there's just, I guess some people we're naturally more comfortable with, and like, I feel like it's the people who understand me, and I don't need to like put on a facade. I still feel like I put on a face when I walk out into the world sometimes, like that I'm normal, that I'm okay, like whatever normal means. I hate that word, but like, I'm a fully functional adult, but like deep down I'm not. Like, I'm a mess, you know what I mean?
I just act like I'm fully functional.
That's just it. a lot of people with a mental illness, that they'll get people, well, you don't seem sick. You don't seem like there's anything wrong with you. And that's because we're so good at faking being okay.
Mm-hmm. Can I actually tell you a funny story? I left this part out by accident, but I was formed. So basically, in where I live in Canada, if a medical professional believes you are a danger to yourself or to other people, they can form you and put you on a psychiatric hold for 72 hours. And I got one of those, and I was put into on a psych ward, and eventually they suggested I stay for a week, and I complied. And I remember being on this, it was a mood disorder ward. So it was people with depression and anxiety. And I remember even the other patients were like, well, you don't really need to be here. You seem fine. I was putting on a show of normalcy and
here.
Oh, hey, oh. I love comments.
Yes. So one thing go for it, Bexy. This is what you're supposed to be doing.
I know. Sometimes it's hard to interject. Okay,
this is why you're getting paid nothing like me.
I know, right? I'm really slacking on this unpaid job of mine. Let's see. We have May, who says, it's really interesting to focus on the tongue because every guided meditation brings you to the tongue, and I never realized how tense that one muscle is. And both Ian and I were suddenly highly aware of our own tongues.
That's interesting. I'm not okay.
DeVern says, I'm only fucked up because I'm not living my dream yet. The sun is great. Also, it depends on who the people are as far as whether they wear him out or not.
Mm-hmm.
Kat finds herself holding my tongue at the back of my mouth and or clenching her jaws.
The jaw.
DeVern says, the problem is that if I am around most people too long or text them too long, then we end up going separate ways. But with breaks, I keep people around. Apparently there might have been a little bit of a lost connection on the end of some of it because Kat and DeVern both missed some stuff.
Yeah, there was I realized that the internet connection was kind of getting bad, and I went, oh yeah, that's right. I had to steal my hardwired connection for work, so I put the hardwire back in on my main production system here.
So we're back in business.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No.
That's me.
No, but that's interesting about the tongue. I've never really paid attention to it, but the jaw thing, I clench my jaw so much. Like even when I'm driving, I notice it a lot more when I'm driving for some reason.
That's a side effect of my antidepressant, actually.
Oh, really? Which some of them have that as a side effect.
I actually take Celexa, and it works for me. I was very lucky that it was the first drug that I was put on, and that it's been working for me for years. But it does cause me to clench my jaw really hard without realizing it, and it also causes me to yawn uncontrollably.
That's interesting.
Whoa. And I know that I almost saw it on Laura's face when you said that your first antidepressant and it worked, and I was feeling it too. It was like, I love you, Bexy, but fuck you. You only had to go through one.
Yeah, I know, guys, I know.
They put me on one drug. Apparently, it's called. I'm on imipramine. And it's like a last line defense antidepressant. Apparently they wore out all the other ones with me because I was so, like, I just had this absolute meltdown in June, and who knows what it was. It was the pandemic. It was, who knows. And apparently so I should probably look up the side effects. I'm just so used to taking the drugs. I don't even look up like the side effects of what they might be doing to me.
Yeah, I've looked up a few of the side effects and I went, hey, a couple of times. Going, that's where that behavior came from. And here I thought it was just because I was getting older.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to do that with the Celexa because all of a sudden I would wake up and my jaw would be so stiff because in my sleep I'm clenching it so hard. So when I notice that happening, I have to wear like mouth guards so I don't grind my teeth really bad.
That's so interesting. I think a lot of them are like dry mouth and dry eyes. And the imipramine, when I started, I was vomiting. I was like, oh, not only am I depressed, I'm violently vomiting, like out of control everywhere. I was like, this is wonderful. This is a beautiful combination of things to be experiencing right now.
Oh yeah, my antidepressant will cause me to get violently ill if I take ibuprofen.
What?
Yeah. I'm on Cymbalta, which is actually a diabetic nerve pain medication that has a side effect of being an antidepressant, which is very beneficial because I actually have permanent nerve damage on the tops of my legs from fishing too many times without enough sunscreen.
God, that's crazy from not enough sunscreen.
Yeah, so I had all these really bad sunburns, like second and third degree sunburns on my legs through the years. So like my leg, like the tops of my legs are super sensitive, which is one of the reasons why I wear shorts all the time. But with the Cymbalta, it hasn't been nearly as bad. It's just, and I didn't even realize that was a side effect until one day I was like, hey, my legs aren't bothering me that much.
So you get like the double benefits.
Yeah, and like my anti-anxiety med is actually an antihistamine that has the side effect of being an anti-anxiety. But I mean, look at Benadryl. It's pretty hard to have anxiety when you're asleep. But
yeah,
my hay fever's gone. I haven't had hay fever in years.
Oh, I'm so jealous of that.
Because of the anti-anxiety med. It's Vistaril. And there's something in the area that actually every spring it tries to kill me. Like if I don't have my Vistaril, it starts out as the smallest little tickle in the back of my throat when I first get outside, and within a full minute, I'm at the point where my throat's closing up.
That's insane. That's like almost an anaphylactic reaction, no?
It's like a slow motion anaphylactic reaction, but yeah. But then I get in, like, if I get in my car, turn on the AC, or if I get back in the house with the AC on, within like 5 minutes, I'm fine again. Or I take my Vistaril, and then I'm just fine.
That's when I love how they find like these antidepressants. Like, what was the one? Gabapentin. It's an anti-seizure drug, but they found that it actually was effective for anxiety. It didn't work for me at all. So
I actually take that for a different reason.
Look at that! Look at all of us and our pharmaceutical knowledge. Like, this isn't
I
take
gabapentin every day for nerve damage.
And it's interesting that they actually use it to treat anxiety. Like, it's found to be very effective. But that's the other thing for me, like, just finding that perfect dose, right? Finding the perfect combination of medications that like makes me relatively stable. It's such an arduous process, and it's such a trial and error thing, and it's
and it's not even just mental meds. I mean, there was that one medication that was meant for blood pressure, and it wound up being this miracle little blue pill that revolutionized the porn industry.
Oh yeah. All these awful uses. Yeah. Well, that's like, the whole medication thing, like, I don't know what I'm more like you now, E. Like, I'm super, super open about my, my mental health and my, like, that's what I kind of like, how it's more in the daily lexicon. People are just more, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm suicidal, I'm feeling hopeless, I'm traumatized. Like when I was talking to you guys, I'm just saying, like, I remember in my lifetime it being unacceptable to talk about this. You know what I mean? Like, the stigma attached to it is, like, I'm happy to see that it's changing a bit.
Right, but I mean, there are certain areas where there's still stigma, like bipolar
and schizophrenia.
Yeah.
And I find that there needs to be, like, education is the key here, right? Like, those sorts of mental illnesses, like, to be depressed and anxious is deemed acceptable, right? Sometimes, but all these other illnesses are still stigmatized very much. And yeah, that's important to mention. And I think even being honest about, like, having suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I wanted to kill myself. Yeah, I've tried to kill myself.
Antisocial personality disorder.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another one too. Borderline personality disorder.
That's another one.
Yeah. And these are still, like, less understood. And, it's funny how depression and anxiety is now the mainstream. And I really hope, like, for all of us that
I was depressed before it was cool.
I was depressed.
Same.
Out of the womb. I was, and, like, it's funny because I don't know about you guys, but in my family, on one side, we all are anxious, depressed people. All of us. Like, it is totally 100% genetic, for sure. It runs in all of us.
Yeah, we had May popped up. Effexor was the first I was put on, and it made me swear off any antidepressant drugs. E says Effexor is the devil.
It is the devil.
Oh wait, no, but May had a great response.
Nay, the devil is definitely on Effexor.
Yeah. Oh my God, the devil does take Effexor to get through the day, probably.
And I was like, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
But what's funny is like I was not warned when I was given it. I was not warned about the side effects, and I was not warned about the withdrawal, because if you miss a dose by a couple of hours, you go into withdrawal. Like you get the brain shocks, and there was no information given to me. Like I probably would have thought twice if I was told, oh, this will be very hard for you, and like withdrawing from a narcotic almost. This is how bad it's going to be. It worked for a while, but I was so physically dependent on it. 7 years at 300 milligrams is what I was on. And it was like 2 weeks before I could stand up straight. 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
Yeah. And they didn't tell me about that. Like, you know, I would like to be able to have more conversations with doctors about this stuff, you know, about like, okay, so what are the side effects of this? What are the long-term implications of this? You know what I mean? Like, what is this going to do outside of possibly making me feel better? Like, what are the implications of taking this long-term? Like Seroquel, for example, can actually like cause people to have diabetes because it really messes with your blood sugar and your kidneys, and you have to get regular like blood sugar tests.
Oh,
like,
and then you get on metformin.
Yeah, like, like I wasn't told about any of this stuff, you know what I mean? And like for me, Seroquel's been a godsend. Like it's really helped quite a bit. But apparently you're not supposed to be on it for long periods of time. Like you're only supposed to be on it for a couple of months or something.
Right, and that's actually something I had to learn the hard way, which is to ask, okay, now, assuming that this med starts working for me and I'm on it pretty long term, what happens if I, say, for whatever reason, can't get a refill? Like, God forbid there's a national shortage.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What happens if I have no choice but to quit cold turkey? God forbid. What happens? And what is the process of stepping down and, you know, getting myself to wean off of it? And what am I looking at for that? And again, that's something I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why I'm very vocal about Effexor. And like I said, it can be a very helpful drug for some people, but it is the devil. Like,
May just May just said it worked too well. I would rather live not life as a human feeling nothing but pain than to lose my humanity and my love for it altogether. And I understand that.
I get that.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be the flatline zombie.
Yeah, that drug is a special drug. And even if you put it in, like I know this sounds really silly, but I put in Effexor Reddit and you hear people's experiences with it. You even get like a better information about how it's affected people than like what my own doctor told me, to be completely honest with you. You know, and I like, and I think about, well, what's like one thing that actually worries me is like, okay, so I'm on one of the frontline drugs, like the last resort. What happens if they run out of things that work for me? You know what I mean? They put me on like a drug from like the olden days, and I would be like, are they ever going to run out of drugs to prescribe me? Like, what's going to happen?
Well, good news for you. There are pharmacists working on new drugs today.
Yeah, for me, like I haven't tried Zoloft or Celexa or Paxil since I was about 12.
And you never know. I mean, by the time, you had the brain of a preteen, adolescent. You now have the brain chemistry of an adult. And there's a reason that they say like certain drugs they do not give to to kids, and there are some that they do not give to adults for that very reason.
And there's a reason why a lot of people are, it's very hard to get some mental health diagnoses for children because they want to wait until the brain is more developed. It's why they don't like to diagnose children as like bipolar before they hit 18.
Yeah, well, because you think of the drugs, the meds for bipolar, they're serious, right? They're very serious medications.
Yeah, I'm staring down the barrel of that gun right now.
Yeah, well, that's it. We're talking about mental health in children and like the manifestations of it in children. It's tough, like all this stuff, because like I know I was this way when I was young, and it's tough to be a child with mental health issues. It's really, really tough. It's very isolating. As an adult, I obviously have a better understanding of it now. But it's hard, it's hard to exist as a person in this world sometimes,
Yeah. Like,
you're
making me think I need to ask my parents what the challenge was like dealing with me as a kid. Because like you, there was obviously something not right with me at a young age. I mean, I was considering suicide in second grade.
Yeah.
But I've never really talked to them about it. But it's like with me, being as aware as I am about mental health and all that, watching my own kids that are now adults and their struggles that they went through their adolescence, teenage years, young adult years, and watch them go through it. I mean, it's hard. It is really hard because it's just like that parent thing is I just want to be able to just reach in and fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or to like live the experiences for them, like take the pain, right? Carry the pain. Yeah. It's really challenging, especially somebody you love is struggling with it as well. Like, you know, in my family, I'm like the sickest of all of us. And you know what's weird? I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but like, I'm treated as like very much a black sheep still. Like in my, you know, even coming from a family of depressed people and anxious people, I'm still seen as like not well enough. And it's like a daily struggle still. It's literally, it sometimes takes like the will of God for me to get up and get out of bed. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And
oh, definitely.
And it's like, and this whole thing now to do with like being productive, like productivity, and like, you know, even now as we're sitting in quarantine, it's like baking bread, learning a new language, like exercising, doing yoga. And it's like, I'm sorry, but like I am massively depressed some days. And I'm like bawling at the state of the world and completely hopeless. Like I'm not going to learn how to bake like fucking sourdough bread. You know what I mean? Like I wish that the world was a little bit more okay with like moments of like not doing anything and that not being seen as a bad thing.
I learned 7 new ways to pick my nose. Does that count?
Like
that really does need to be a thing though, because there are some days where if all you can do is get out of bed, shower, and put clean clothes on, that's an accomplishment.
Sometimes it says accomplishment just to get out of bed to go to the bathroom.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's an accomplishment just to drink some water and eat a little something.
What's that?
It's you know, it's so true. And like, because I feel like sometimes we live in a society where it's like, do this, do that, like wake up and do this, and like all, and it's just like, but what if you don't have the brain chemistry or the ability to do that, you know? And it's
spoons.
The spoon theory.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
What's the spoon theory?
Ooh, go for it, Betsy. This is your specialty.
Okay, yeah, this is so with my autoimmune disease, I struggle with chronic pain. Spoon theory the spoon theory is a way to explain how chronic pain patients deal every day. Let's say every day you start out the day with 12 spoons. When you get up out of bed, you lose a spoon. When you shower, you might lose 2 spoons, depending on how you feel. You know, making food for your family, you might lose 3 spoons. And before you realize it, you're going through your day and you don't have any spoons left to give anything. You've run out of energy. And it's all you can do to push yourself forward. Sometimes you can borrow spoons from the next day and you can push through, but that always comes back and it always bites you in the ass, because eventually there's not going to be enough spoons for you to borrow and you're just going to shut down.
You know what? I love, like, thank you for sharing that with me. That's a really good analogy. That really is.
Yeah, and our last guest of last season, Ariel, actually has a tattoo of a spoon for that reason.
Yes.
That's a little reminder, though. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I really still I look at, okay, here's one thing I learned. Here's what one of my sponsors in AA told me. So I've given up on social media, Facebook, Instagram. I've completely tossed it. Like, I think it doesn't do well for me. And the one thing my sponsor said to me was, they were like, don't compare your insides to everybody else's outsides. So I'm having my own personal experience. I'm looking at these really outside versions of people, the people that they, you know, want themselves to be. And it's airbrushed and it's fixed up, and comparison is the thief of joy. You know, it is. Yep. It really is. And I look at these people and I can be resentful because I'm like, oh, look at you out for dinner like a normal person, or oh, look at you working out, or oh, look at you, like, you know, doing normal things. And I found just like my my abilities, given sort of the weight that I have to carry and live with, is not the same as theirs. You know what I mean?
Right, and not even all of them really are living that way. For all we know, some of them are on the inside screaming, stabbing their own heart repeatedly on the inside.
Very true. Like, obviously, like, I guess people wouldn't know that maybe I was struggling as much as I was struggling, That's true. But I found that getting off of social media, because I compare myself to others, I'm very much like, well, if they can, why can't I? Like, I find myself, I'm a perfectionist too. And I found that perfectionism has almost a positive connotation, like, oh, you're really good at stuff. But what I've learned about perfectionism is actually it is a response to trauma. And so what I do is, if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all. So that results in procrastination. That results in like me setting extremely high standards for myself that I'll never achieve. So I find myself actually being almost paralyzed with fear that I won't be good enough. So I just don't do it.
Yeah, you probably saw my reaction there.
But if you learn about perfectionism as a result to trauma, it makes a lot of sense. Like, perfectionism is not a good thing. It's actually quite debilitating, And it's me. So my thing is, I compare myself to other people. I should be as good of a basketball player as Michael Jordan. I should be like the best cook in the world. Like, who's a really good chef? I don't know. Gordon Ramsay. Yeah. So I'm comparing myself to these like crazy high standards that I will never, ever, ever meet. And these people have put years and years and years of practice and all this stuff into. But I'm like, oh, if I'm not going to be as good as them, then I'm just not going to do it. And I'm a piece of shit. And so the cycle goes, right? And it's like this self-defeating thing. And one thing I've learned about myself is like, when I pay attention to my inner dialogue and the way that I speak to myself, I am aghast. I am like, the how terrible and mean and cruel I am to myself is shocking when I actually stop and pay attention. So I don't know if anyone else can relate to that.
Oh yeah. Definitely. I didn't find myself in a tub of hot water with a knife for being kind to myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wasn't sitting popping pills one night because I was really nice to myself. No.
Yeah, it's like the business, right? It's like you're so stupid, you're so dumb, like you're not good enough. Like the inner dialogue that I'm not even aware of. Like my inner voice is like very dark and very demeaning and very belittling, and it's automatic.
Yep, and we've actually had
that. Yeah, I was about to say we have a couple comments now.
Yes.
May says, and they're screaming at me for not physically being able to wear a mask. I understand that because my little brother is not really able to wear one either, and I get a lot of flack for that.
Mm-hmm.
It says, Javern says, if they can, why can't I? Goes two ways. It can either push us to feel like shit or drive us to reach a higher point. It inspires me and makes me jealous all the time seeing photography on Instagram. And
Javern's photography is really good.
It is really good. May says, striving for perfection is demoralizing. And Javern says, Bob Ross said he hopes we are never satisfied. If you'd paint a perfect painting, you'd never paint again. I think that it is a good analogy for life. Just enjoy the process and keep pushing. But no, you won't be the best.
I like that.
And then there was a conversation earlier where Davern and May were having a conversation about anxiety and being flatlined is weird. Then May was like, Davern, anxiety is a whole different demon. I'm sorry your anxiety has gotten to that point. Please know you're not alone. And she said, I'm up to 5 days without a shower. Davern, I barely brush my teeth or wear anything but underwear during this pandemic or anytime I am not going anywhere else. Thanks, May. And I went, I hate to admit it, but I will. I haven't showered all year. I plan on it after I do the podcast. Put my kids to bed. I also plan on doing it last night when I put the kids to bed, and the day before that, before I put the kids to bed. So yeah, I think that we all kind of.
May says we should get badges. I was nice to myself today. High fives all around. And Javern says exactly.
That's so true. Like, I wish I could be the kind of person like that. Okay, like I brushed my teeth and I had a shower today, and like I pat myself in the back, and like I don't know about you guys, but then I think, oh, like I'm so pathetic. Like, look at all these other people being productive.
I just read something the other day, and I actually saved it, and I've posted it on my Twitter because I really like it. And it says depression tips: shower, not a bath. Use water as hot or as cold as you like. You don't even need to wash. Just get in, under the water and let it run over you for a while. Sit on the floor if you gotta. Moisturize everything, whatever lotion you like. Unscented, dollar store lotion, fancy 48-hour lotion that makes you smell like a field of wildflowers. Use it all over your entire dermis. Put on clean, comfortable clothes. Put on your favorite underwear. Cute lacy panties or those ridiculous boxers you bought last Christmas with candy cane hearts on the butt. Put them on. Drink cold water. Use ice. And if you want, add some mint or lemon for an extra boost. Clean something. It doesn't have to be anything big. Organize one drawer of a desk. Wash 5 dirty dishes. Do a load of laundry. Scrub the bathroom sink out. Blast music, and I find this helps me so much. Listen to something upbeat and dancey and loud and something that's got a lot of energy. Sing to it, dance to it, even if you suck at both. Make food. Don't just grab a granola bar to munch on. Take the time to make something, even if it's ramen noodles. Make it special. Add an egg to it or some veggies. Prepare your food. It always tastes better, and you'll feel like you've accomplished something. Make something. Write a poem or a story. Draw a picture. Fold origami. Crochet. Knit. Sculpt something out of clay. Anything artistic, even if you don't think you're good at it. Create. Take a walk. Sit in the grass. Look at the clouds. Smell the flowers. Put your hands in the dirt and feel the soil. Call someone. A loved one. A friend. Family member. Call a chat service if you have no one else to call. Talk to a stranger on the street. Which, I mean, that's, with this pandemic, maybe we can't do the whole stranger on the street thing. But and if you can't bring yourself to call, text or email or whatever, just have some social interaction with another person. Even if you don't say much, you can listen to them. It always helps. Cuddle your pets. Take pictures of them. Talk to them. I do that every day anyway because
we were all talking about our love of our dogs.
Oh, yes. My doggos are mad because
but this
door's
list
closed.
can keep people alive. At your absolute best, you won't be good enough for the wrong people. But at your worst, you're still worth it to the right ones. Remember that and keep holding on. And in case nobody has told you today, I love you, and you are worth your weight and then some in gold. So be kind to yourself, and most of all, keep on pushing.
That was awesome. There's a lot, but that was awesome.
You're up then.
It is a lot.
And there's one that I learned too. It's like, as a tip, when you're depressed, your dishes are stacking up. If you have a dishwasher, throw them in as is. There's no rule that says you can't run the dishwasher 2 or 3 times to get them clean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that has helped me a lot. Because then it's like, wow, I actually did something. As opposed to looking at it going, that insurmountable task of turning on the water and washing off each plate and each fork. No, just throw it all in, put in the soap, close the door, normal, high heat, dry, go. Come back after it's done, toss another soap in, repeat.
One thing that really helps me, I find, like, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm like, let's say I have to do something for work and it's like 50 million steps away from doing it, I focus on the next indicated action. Like, what is the next indicated action? Okay, it's have a shower. Don't think about having a shower, putting on my makeup, getting dressed. No, have the shower. Okay, I've had the shower. What is the next indicated action? Brush your hair. Okay, after that. Like, I find that I look 50,000 steps ahead because that's my anxiety, right? Trying to prepare, trying to be ready. But if I stay in the task in the moment, instead of looking like all of these steps ahead, it doesn't seem as overwhelming. And it's much easier said than done, obviously.
Yeah.
But just
that's a good tip to try, though.
Yeah, it's what is the next indicated action? That's what I say to myself. Okay. Like today I was thinking to myself, like I had to do something for work and it involved like having to look presentable, And so I was like, oh my God, I can't see. I was like, my hair, I hadn't showered in a couple of days. I was in my pajamas. I looked like not great. And then I was thinking to the end point of what I had to look like. But no, I just got in the shower. Okay. After the shower, I blow dry my hair. Okay. Now I'm going to put on clothes. Like it makes it a little bit more digestible and less overwhelming. So that seems to help me quite a bit.
And as cheesy as this sounds, and I have to thank my 5-year-old for this, there's a song that actually goes along with that from Frozen 2, the next right thing. When you are in your absolute lowest point possible or imaginable, just focus on doing the next right thing.
Yeah. See, like, that's great though. Like,
and I'm glad that lesson's being taught to my 5-year-old already. I was like, damn, kudos.
I wish I was taught that. My God.
Right?
like, oh, I just have to do like the next thing. I don't need to worry about the end result. Like,
Wait.
Oh my God, what a liberating thing.
Wait, you mean there's a solution between get everything done and curled up in the corner screaming at myself? Awesome!
Well, the other thing about perfectionism too, and just, anxiety in general and depression is like, oh, if I don't get it done, then it's not good enough. No, there's such thing as getting some of it done. Like I can do a little bit. It doesn't have to be complete. Like a little bit is better than none, Yep. And
I write music. I get that 100%.
Yeah, it's like I don't have to wash all the dishes. I can wash 3 of them, and then the anxiety and the perfectionism kicks in. It's like, oh, well, you're not good enough. You're lazy because you can't wash all the dishes. Why can't I just flip it on the other side and be like, good for you. You feel like fucking shit and want to die, but you just washed 3 dishes. Well done. Like
that's how we should treat ourselves. It should be okay. I know I feel really bad today. It's not a good day for me, but look at the small things that I accomplished. I washed a load of laundry. I washed, part of the dishes that were dirty. I took a shower.
Mm-hmm.
Those things should be, I'm not saying hand out participation trophies or anything, but be kinder to yourself about it.
Right.
Look back and realize that you're not.
And the next day,
useless like your mind tells you.
And the next day, you might have a little bit of a high from that. You might do 4 dishes or 5 or even double.
Right.
Or you might even just get it in yourself and you roll up your sleeves and do them all. It has a cumulative effect.
I totally agree. Like I had this maybe you guys, I'm sure you can relate to this. I had to call the Amazon. Okay. I recently changed my number and I couldn't get into my Amazon account and I had to talk to a human being on the phone and I put it off and I put it off and I put it off. And finally I got to the point where like, I have to make this phone call. And it had the cumulative effect. I was like, oh, okay, now I have to call about hydro. That's electricity here. So I called about hydro. I got that done. And then I was like, oh, now I can make that phone call to this other thing. And it's true. It does have like a snowball effect. But it's so, we're just so hard on ourselves. We're so
You said hard on.
No,
I'm sorry. And today I learned that water is power in Canada. That is just weird.
Niagara Falls powers a lot of Ontario.
Ah, yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's Toronto Hydro is a nice overpriced electricity. But
hey, it's green.
It is green. It's true. But yeah, like this and this whole thing, I guess we can't forget we're also in a pandemic. Like I've been seeing a lot of stuff, like little notes on the internet to people. It's like, it's okay if you're not doing okay in this. You know what I mean?
I created a shirt that says that. It's okay to not be okay.
It's okay to not be okay. Like, it's true. I read this thing. Somebody said, like, when they were having when it was wartime, like it was World War II, basically nobody was expected to be normal, right? Nobody was expected to work normally. Everything shifted to sort of what was happening on the world stage. But what's interesting is that even though the whole world around us has changed, we're still expected to function normally. Kids are in school. We're supposed to go to work and be productive. We're supposed to pay all of our bills. Like nothing about our external lives the productivity we're supposed to put out has changed. And we're going through a collectively horrible traumatic event. And we're supposed to remain the same? Like, it blows my mind. How is that possible?
The part that really blows my mind is how it just seems so random and happenstance about like what's open and what's not. Like schools are closed, but liquor stores are open. Well, okay, that one makes sense. You have to be home with your kids. But I mean, all kidding aside, there's just a lot of it just doesn't make sense. Like the small businesses have to be closed, but Target's open.
Yeah.
And not attack against Target. Just it's more about the decision making behind that. It's just what's the sense in that? Or like airlines, everyone's 6 feet apart in the terminal, but then you're packed in like sardines on the plane.
I actually had to travel internationally. Like I came back like not, something happened and I had to return to Canada. I actually had to fly internationally in this clusterfuck that we're all going through. And I flew out of Mexico City. And they were very good there. The social distancing, I was not near a single person. I got into the terminal here. I landed, and all these flights were jumbled together by accident because there were delays. Obviously, there was 200 people, international travelers. And I remember standing there looking around. And in Canada, You have to quarantine for 14 days. You are not allowed to leave your house. They can charge you like hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's insane. And I was like, there's no fucking way every single person here is going to stay in their house for 14 days. There's no way. And it was just the most insane. Like, this whole thing, like, has really fucked me up. And it's also, I don't know if this happened to you guys, but it's made me really aware of what scarcity means. Like food, stockpiling food.
Toilet paper.
Yes, the infamous toilet paper. But it's made me feel really like aware of scarcity and like how precarious everything is, if that makes sense. Like, just how tomorrow we don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And,
there was one thing that I read somewhere, and it really hit home, which is if your job provides food on your table, clothes on your back, and a roof over your head, it is essential.
Right. I would say so. I would agree with that.
And wow, we're getting some comments again.
Yeah, I love the comments.
Yes, we are. Okay. Devern says, do y'all have people in your life that tell you why you need to brush your teeth as if you don't understand, and they don't understand why you don't do it? LOL.
Yeah.
And
it's like, I would if I could, but I can't. Like, my God.
yeah.
Back off, okay?
May says, I started opening the window while I'm working so I can see that there's a world still turning outside my four walls. I make a point to appreciate everything I see.
Oh, I like that a lot. That's a really, really nice thing to do.
Devern says, I always look too far ahead, so this seems like it could be helpful. It's like all of our brains are railroad lines without dispatchers to keep trains moving smooth and out of the way of each other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, Devern, you would love Atlas Shrugged. Just saying.
Yes, you would.
Lots of trains. I mean, the whole story focuses on a vice president of operations, basically, for a railroad company.
Amazing book. And anyway, May says, I've been saying that since day one. It's okay to not be okay, and you are essential because words matter. And she also says, exactly, that's the definition of essential.
And you skipped one that I really love that May said. I tell my 20-year-old that life is not a competition with other people. It's a competition with who you were yesterday.
Ooh, that's good. This is all sage advice. God,
that one did not pop up in my chat.
Okay, well, good thing I saw it because I was like, that one was gold.
I would have definitely have read that, but I do not have, for whatever reason. Sometimes the app does not pop up all the comments on my end.
You know, it's like one thing that I was thinking of that I don't know if everyone else can relate to is like I have a very busy brain. I find, like, we were talking about this when we were chatting before, just how people with mental health especially are the most like creative, smart, articulate, almost the most profound, beautiful, complex people I've ever met.
Stupid people depress us.
And I also found that with people in addiction as well. And it's and then I remember we were talking about the dual diagnosis, how there's this new thing in sort of the 12-step programs is now they're actually acknowledging that, oh shit, yeah, people who are alcoholics probably are also like have mental health struggles as well. So there are like fellowships out there that are for people who identify as an alcoholic or an addict or any kind of like other, addiction, but also have mental health issues.
Well, let's face it, it's not like a lot of these people went ahead and picked up the bottle because they're feeling good about their lives.
Well, exactly. And this is like a new thing that people are just talking about it. Like, I like AA, I do. It saved my life, but it was the book was written in the 30s. Let's be honest. And there are like these real zealots that are like, oh no, mood or mind altering substances. I'm like, so why are you smoking and why are you drinking coffee? Like, is that not a mood or mind altering substance?
Literally, nicotine and caffeine will alter your state of mind. Yeah, literally.
But God forbid you take a psychiatric drug, right? Like, God, no, of course not. So I'm really big now on informing people that it's like nowhere in anywhere does it say that you shouldn't be taking these drugs. They basically say, like, we know our limitations, access outside help. And they actually are starting to listen and realize that, like, oh my God, a lot of these people have like other issues outside of alcoholism and drug addiction. Like, who would have thought? You know what I mean? And they're concurrent disorders, like more often than not, And of course, like for me, like alcohol was a wonderful coping mechanism. Obliteration, I loved it. I loved it. I didn't have to think or feel or do anything. I could just, be drunk. It was perfect. But it stopped drinking, right?
Yeah, and then of course your standards for what you will drink keep lowering and lowering. The hangovers get worse and worse. And...
Oh my God. Like I got to the point where luckily like my alcoholism was only for like really, really, really dangerous drinking was only 3 years. I say that. I'm even flippant about my addiction sometimes. 26 to 29. But yeah, I saw people who drank mouthwash, who drank hand sanitizer. And addiction is like such a profound aspect of mental health as well. Just people who are suffering look for anything to feel better, especially with the barriers to care and the barriers to any help that exist now. So I'm a really big addiction advocate, and I'm a big mental health advocate, and I'm hoping that these things like do start to change a little bit more, and that these aren't like moral failings. You know what I mean?
Right, and that's also part of the reason that this podcast exists. I mean, it's not much, but I think it's helps. I've had people. I know for a fact that this podcast has saved some lives, for a fact. So, and I mean that right there, like I said, I mean that's forever humbling. I love that I was able to actually, with this podcast, be able to save lives. It's a small part, but it's something, And I feel like that doing this can help, and a lot of people keep responding that it does help, which is great. But there's also, I also have my own issues where I'm like, that's awesome. I hear all this positive stuff, but inside I'm like, sometimes, like especially this time of year with SAD, it's like, oh, that's nice. They're placating the piece of shit that's doing the stupid hobby.
But isn't that like what we're all talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like you're working so hard. You're doing like, look at the time and energy you put into this, you know?
And it's not like I'm fishing for compliments. I'm really not. I'm just trying to put it out there. This is how I feel. Like the week between Christmas and New Year's Eve, I seriously considered just blowing up the podcast and never doing it again.
Mm-hmm. But that honesty and that candor is like so good to share with other people. Like that, I heard that connection it is like a huge combator of addiction, but connection is also a huge combator of depression. When we connect and we identify and we relate to each other, you feel a little bit less alone, a little bit less flawed, a little bit less like terminally unique, and and that other people are living the same as we are. And like I would assume there are more people who live with this than do not. I'm gonna guess.
I wouldn't be surprised, and may actually put in there normies, lol. Well, maybe we're the normies. Maybe this is normal.
Oh, you know what? I think that's why I hate the word normal. It's like for whom? Like for whom? What is normal? But I think it's true because the more candid I am with other people, like I find that other people are like, oh yeah, me too. I'm like, okay, so why are we all still pretending like everything is like we're just normal, fully functioning like adults? Like, why are we pretending this?
I mean, I get that we have certain things that we have to do in order to survive.
Yeah.
But can we drop the facade?
There's a quote that I really like, and it says, "When no one was there for me, you always stood beside me. I don't know what was in you. I think it's love and care from you that helps get me through. When I lost my confidence and was doomed, you were the one who held me high again with confidence and pride." That's how I feel about E.
Oh, that's so nice.
You're gonna make me cry.
I'm trying to. Well,
thank you.
I have a quote that I'm.
He was there at my lowest.
That's that is so incredible, and that's so powerful. Human connection, and like we save each other. We save each other, right?
Yeah. Well, the first nickname the first nickname I gave Bexy was an unflattering one, but the first one I gave her in private was I called her Willow. because she withstands the storm. She may bend, but she doesn't break. And that's a quality I saw in her.
Yes. Well, I was, remember I was saying that when I met Bexy, just when we spoke before this, I said, I can tell you have a special spirit. I said, there's something, you have a beautiful spirit. Like, and I and most people I meet who struggle like all of us do, they are the most beautiful people. They're the most loving, the most compassionate, the most kind, the most generous, the most understanding, and that's why I love this, that we're all standing here together being honest, and like all of us together are stronger than these diseases, right? Like we can be stronger than them. Right. And no, I'll share my little quote. I'm going to paraphrase because I can't remember, but it was like, regret is the longing to change the past. Anxiety is the, fear and wanting to change the future, and peace is the surrender to now. So I'm in peace if I'm surrendering to this moment as it is.
I like that.
Yeah. My depression and my regret lies in the past. I shoulda, coulda, woulda. My anxiety is what's going to happen, in the future. Like, how can I control this? How can I make it better? But I am at peace in this moment. If I am like truly in this moment and surrendering to life as it is. Because usually when I look around in the moment, everything's pretty okay. Like, it's pretty okay.
Hey, you have a roof over your head. You're not freezing to death in blustery Canada.
Oh, goodness, yeah. No, but it's true.
And no joke, you could freeze to death up there.
Oh, you could. And it's an epidemic here, because I was saying the cost of living here is so high, and many people who are homeless are struggling with mental health. And, it's very tragic to see, and it's so misunderstood.
I couldn't think of a worse place to be homeless than Canada, just because even the most southern parts of Canada is still cold as fuck.
Well, I'm in one of them, right? Because we're only about an hour and a half north of Buffalo, and people who are homeless sleep on like the steam grates, and they get third-degree burns.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to stay warm, and like here, this is one of the most expensive cities. Like, it's insane, and seeing these people, like, if they just had some help, if they just had some stable housing, if they just had some access to, because our healthcare doesn't cover medication. We still pay out of pocket.
I don't remember which state it was. I want to say Utah, but I may be wrong. But there was a state where they took all of the bank repossessed homes and they decided to go ahead and let homeless people live in them, pay for utilities, and just to see what would happen. And what wound up happening is that the state saved money versus the costs of hospitalizations, arrests, and everything else. And a lot of those people, because they had a place to call home, got up on their feet and eventually got jobs. They got cleaned up. They got their own place, paid their own bills. And, that's definitely... one state's already proved it can work. It may not be a solution all around the world, but it should be something that every place looks into, I think.
Well, we're having a housing crisis, especially in the U.S. and Canada, because we are having a housing crisis. And think of all the people being evicted because of the pandemic.
That's part of the reason that politics aside, when Trump signed the omnibus, before he said, I want to be able to have line editing, the reason he passed it when he did was if he didn't, the protection from rent and protection from mortgages would have lapsed, and a bunch of people would have been kicked out. And that was one of the things that why he signed it the way he did. Even though it really pissed off a lot of his constituents, it pissed off a lot of the Republicans, and they all felt that they were sold out. It was to keep people in homes. Love them or hate them, that was one thing I think that, credit where credit's due. That was awesome.
One thing I wonder, though, is, remember we were talking about this, I want to share it with the chat, how, like, I was saying, like, I'm weathering this storm, like, pretty okay. I'm used to the isolation. I'm used to despair. I'm used to, like, fear. I'm used to, all these sort of, like, the world looks dark and I can't go out and do anything. I'm like, I prepared my whole life for this shit. I know exactly what this game is about, And here we have a whole new set of people that have never ever known a struggle like this before, and the impact it's having, and it's a whole new wave of people experiencing depression and anxiety, and they don't know how to function. They don't know how to cope. But people with existing mental health illness are like, oh yeah, like I know exactly, like this is like my Olympics, like I totally know how to get through all this, you know?
Right. And I mean, suicide rates are through the roof. They don't talk about it, but they are through the roof.
That's the thing. But I wonder how many of those people have pre-existing diagnosed mental health conditions versus those who didn't. It would be interesting to study.
I would love to see a study on that. Just to see how many were actually, like, how is it impacting the quote unquote normies more or less?
That's what I wonder,
Right.
because we have the resiliency to deal with it, right? Because we've been through this despair and this horrible thing, you know, before. But the normies haven't. I'm trying to find this.
We're all Bane. They're all Batman, and we're all talking about the darkness.
Oh, I wish I could find, there was like this whole thing that I probably won't be able to find it. But if I do, I'll send it to you guys one day, and maybe you can read it on the podcast, because it was this really good sort of poem saying. Anyway, yeah.
If you find it, go for it. Okay.
I'm trying to look for it.
Okay, we have a couple comments too. So, E, when you were talking about wanting to, scrap the podcast, and you were saying that, you didn't do it to like seek attention or for praise or anything like that when you were feeling really bad.
Right.
May says it has nothing to do with your ego. This is an important conversation to have. We got an awe from Kat. May says, realizing that everyone has their own trauma and their own demons humanizes them and us. Also, Bexy, heart emoji.
Yeah, that's because of what you said about me.
Yeah. I recognize that this is a part of your and my human experience, and we have been sent nothing but angels.
Aww.
Yeah.
And May also says, one of my coworkers quit his job on Tuesday because he was just diagnosed with depression and anxiety.
Wow. Yeah, well, right now I know that there's a lot of people even struggling. Oh, I found it, you guys.
Go for it. We love poetry here.
Okay, so
Yes, we do.
This was more for it was related to alcoholism, but I think this applies to anyone who struggles with sort of any sort of thing that impacts their life. So I'm going to read it anyway. We are used to an unseen illness trying to kill us. We live through that every day. We are used to taking things as they come, one day at a time. We are used to isolation. We have survived loneliness many times. We are used to quarantine, jails, institution detoxes, treatment centers, and more. We are used to letting go. Well, this is more AA. We are used to working every day to keep others alive, to keep hope alive. We are used to fighting against the odds to recover from a disease, to help others to recover. We have the best skill set in the world to make it through this. So I hear how my mental illness and my struggles and my despair, my despondency, and my hopelessness have actually helped me survive this. Because it's true, I'm used to my unseen illness, my depression and my anxiety, my brain trying to kill me. I am used to my mental illness getting me into institution. I got locked up in jail. I'm used to trying to help other people who suffer to stay alive. I'm used to fighting against the odds. My brain wants to kill me. This wants to kill me. And it's true. We've been preparing for this. And I thought that was very profound. And I see how it applies to this. I mean, I bawled my head off when I first saw this. But that unseen illness trying to kill us, that's what I feel about my mental illness. It's my unseen illness trying to kill me every day.
Hey, I got a 5150. Yeah. And I was in a 72-hour hold. Then I went into a mental health facility and was there for another 72 hours after my 72-hour hold. And then I went for 2 months of intense outpatient. And then I went to the Anxiety Treatment Center, which was another IOP. Been there.
Yeah, it's the lingo, IOP, exactly. It's hearing that. It's like we are used to isolation. We have survived loneliness many times. I can't, the amount of time where I would not leave my apartment for 2 weeks because I was too afraid to face the outside world. Like I'm like, oh, I get permission to stay home. like it's acceptable for me not to leave my house for 2 weeks. This is kind of okay. This is nice. I don't have to feel guilty.
I could work in my pajamas? Little did you know I don't wear pajamas.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's
why
okay.
I love the podcast. I'm in my pajamas right now.
Yeah, I'm in my bathrobe. But it's so true. That's what I like. There's, it's a double-sided or whatever, the double-edged sword or a two-sided coin here. It's, like that's why I think it would be really interesting. I wonder in the upcoming years when they finally start to sort of be able to tease apart sort of the extraneous effects that have happened to people. Like, how did people with mental illness, diagnosed mental illness, fare in the pandemic versus those who have never kind of experienced this sort of adversity, this isolation, this forced quarantine? How are they doing? Like, how are the normies doing? I'm going to guess probably not as well. But I'm not a doctor, and I don't have data, so I don't know.
If I were to venture a guess, I would say that the normies aren't faring so well. That's just my guess.
Well, I don't know about you guys. Like, I mean, I struggle, but at the same time, like, there's aspects with this I don't struggle with. Like, not leaving the house, I don't struggle with that. Being isolated, I don't struggle with that.
Uber Eats, done.
Yeah, being able to cook, like all these things. But like, I'm okay with those things, and like even the thoughts. Like, remember we were saying like we don't like big crowds. Like, yeah, I like concerts, but everything else, like, I'm good. Like, I don't need to go near large groups of other people. I'm fine.
Yeah, no. What's kind of funny is that having like your Target delivering to you or your grocery store delivering to you before the pandemic's like, how lazy are you? Now it's like, oh, you're so kind and thoughtful and considerate.
And it's like, you can do contactless delivery. You don't even have to talk to them. That is a godsend.
Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I'm still lazy, but I'll go ahead and take it as being considerate.
It's your duty. It's your duty. No, I know. But you want to hear something crazy? I'm so hard on myself that I'm like, oh, I shouldn't pay the extra $5. I should go to the store. Like, I should be like, shouldn't be lazy, go to the store, even though the whole world is saying stay the fuck home. Me and my mental illness is like, no, this is what you should. I always say I should all over myself all the time.
I do that as well because, I feel like it's like, oh, I really shouldn't order online groceries. I should just go to the store and get what I want. And then I look at myself and say, calm down, Miss Compromised Immune System. You've already gotten COVID once. Order your groceries online and stay the fuck home.
Meanwhile, on the camera, Laura sees why I actually kind of enjoy going to the store.
Well, that's a cool mask. I've got to say, that is very cool.
And yeah, it's the website. It's our logo on the website.
You know what I love about masks is you don't have to fake smile at people right now.
That's
like
true.
I love that.
And you can have the frown. Like, everyone says I have the resting bitch face. I'm like, well, now no one can say that to me because they can't see my mouth.
Oh, I was always told that I have resting homicidal face.
Oh, well, now they don't
confirm. Wait, no.
See, I love it. I love the mask. I love how no one can see my like scowl because I usually I have one sometimes.
I literally walked into work one day and I was so just exhausted. And I walked to my desk and I smile to everybody because that's just who I am. And I just walk up to my desk and I just go log in. And a guy that was in training with me, we'd been working together for a year and a half. And we were pretty close friends, took one look at me, couldn't help it, convulsively stepped away from me and asked, who killed your wife?
Oh.
Because he said it looked like I was plotting murder. And I was like, dude, I'm just barely awake.
It's like... Wait, have you noticed that now you can tell when people are doing a fake smile because their eyes do the fake smile for the mask? Like, I've noticed that.
Oh, yeah.
People have, like, I don't, yes, you're doing it right now. The fake smile with the eyes.
Yep. You can just go.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, are you smiling or are you glaring? Yes.
I still have so much concern about what other people think about me. It's the most, even though most people are just thinking about themselves, people are inherently selfish, right? We're concerned first and foremost. But I still think that everyone's paying attention to me. I'm like the main character. No, I'm not. But I still have this like really warped sense of like everyone's judging me and everyone's like thinking about how I'm A, B, or C. Like, I don't know if anyone else can relate to that.
I can't relate because I know everybody's thinking about me. So.
Oi.
Yeah, Macy's called. They wanted me to come to the parade, but I couldn't get out the door.
Oh. Well, you know, it's true. But when I learned, but I still have to work with this. But when I learned that it's true, it's like, think about how much I think of myself. That's how everyone else is.
Yep.
They're thinking only of themselves for the most part, and probably wondering what we think of them. You know, everyone's very self-involved. That's human nature, right?
I will say that I used to inordinately worry about what people thought of me because I always thought it was going to be bad. I was conditioned to believe that people would always think the worst about me. Mm-hmm. In the past few years, I have stopped worrying about what other people think of me and just have worried about myself and
how do you do that?
Being happy. And it's made all the difference.
Like, what are some like practical ways of actually doing that? Like, how did you achieve that?
Like, I used to have to, as corny as it sounds, when I first started going through this, I went on the internet and I found a list of positive affirmations, and I would spend 10 minutes in the bathroom looking at myself in the mirror and thinking, instead of thinking negative thoughts about myself, I would start to think positive thoughts like, what do I really like about myself today? Oh, today I really like my eyes. I have very pretty eyes, and you know, that's something that I've always had, but they lacked a spark for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really wish that Bexy would show you a picture of her from before. You could see the difference in the eyes. Like, holy shit!
Yeah, it's a big difference. Hang on, and I actually have a picture. So
yeah,
let me find that. I have the first picture in this is when I was 29 years old and weighed the heaviest I have ever weighed. The second picture is just earlier this month.
Oh,
I'm 40 now. There's the difference between hating yourself and loving yourself.
It really is an inside job, isn't it?
It is.
Like 9/11. Oh, wait. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Bad Eric. Oh, I name Bob myself.
You can't look to other people for that happiness that you want. It has to come from within you. You have to learn that you are valid and you have worth, and that all comes from inside of you. There are people that can help you along the way and can hold your hand and can teach you the lessons that you need to learn, but you have to do that work yourself.
Have you ever done any inner child work?
I have never done any kind of therapy myself, other than my therapy. It was E and a mutual friend of ours.
Well, I'm going to share this with you because it's not something I heard from a therapist. I just read it somewhere, especially for this is especially for children who grew up in like really difficult homes. But they said, picture like a moment when as a child you felt scared and powerless and fearful. And I can think of a really, really specific one. And they said, imagine your current self going to that child and comforting them. What would that child see when they looked at you? And I just burst into tears because I thought that little girl would look at me and see a brave, courageous, strong, independent, free, beautiful woman. You know, that's what that little child would really see. And I found that incredibly profound. And I can go back and think, you know, be that strong survivor that I am, you know? And
right. I totally get that, because if I were to see myself as a child, I would have to, I mean, the first thing I would do would be to hug that girl and tell her that she doesn't have to listen to all of the hateful things that were shoved down her throat. She doesn't have to believe that she's useless and worthless, and you know, that she is going to grow up and she is going to be an amazing person.
But the thing is, she would be looking at you and see that you are an amazing person, right? You are all the things that you wished you could be, you know, that you dreamed of being when we were children, right?
Yes, definitely.
Like,
and it took me, I'm sad to say that it took me about 37 years to finally realize that.
I think, you know, for women, like, no offense, E, but I think for women, there's so much stuff, you know, so much stuff about self-worth and being good enough, you know, and it's this idea of like how we should look and how we should act and all these things, and it's such a challenge. And just stepping into your own power and your own beauty and your own strength is like such a revolution. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's the biggest honestly, power move you can ever pull.
And no offense taken, as a guy, we do have our own pressures and our own stigmas and our own things to deal with. But honestly, if I had to choose between a guy and a girl with the pressures, I stick with guy. I'm thankful for that.
To be fair,
I say guys go through it too. It's not talked about as much, which is why.
Well, I think that's why guys commit suicide like we do.
Yeah.
Along with being an advocate for just mental health in general, I am really, really, really passionate about putting it out there that it's okay for men to not be okay too. That it's okay if they need to take a moment, because, you know, sometimes I look at some of the guys that I'm friends with and I see how amazingly strong in this face that they put on for the entire world when I know they're breaking inside.
Yep. And another thing that guys have got to be able to admit, and society has got to accept, men can be abused by their spouses too. Men can be raped too. Absolutely. Everything that can happen to a woman, as far as abusiveness goes, can happen to a man.
Yes.
Well, and I think the thing is that we do, and I agree, we need to pay more attention to men, because men are victims. Men are silenced. Men have ideals they are supposed to live up to, right? Body types they are supposed to be. Personality, you know, the big, strong, don't show emotion, don't be kind, you know, don't cry. That, you know, that is so unfair to men. So it's on both sides. It's just society in general. It's just a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I know a lot of people love him. I think he's a great actor. Well, okay, he's not a great actor, but he's a great person, decent actor. Fuck you, Jason Momoa, for that body. Because you had really upped the standards for us.
Well, you know, it's true, because men are said, oh, you have to be strong and, you know, emotion and like don't cry and all this stuff, and that's still like a thing that's taught to many little boys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it stunts us.
And another thing too is that there are times where I've heard of there was a meeting where guys were talking about men's health problems, and it's supposed to be like this big thing where like a convention. And there's going to be like hundreds of guys there, and they're all going to talk about it. And it got shut down by a wave of feminists because they were screaming, "You're taking away from the women." And it's like, no, not one guy there is trying to take away from the women. They're saying, look, we have our issues too. We're not trying to take from you. We're trying to help ourselves. This isn't a competition.
No, it's true, and I believe that this is my belief. My understanding of the definition of feminism is equality, not superiority.
Exactly, and there are true feminists out there which do go for equality. I love them. I give them my full support. It's those, I hate the term, but it is so apt. The fem-Nazis, the ones that have men are the enemy. You can't have equality when you have an enemy. It's not possible. Can't.
It's true. Feminism is the equality of both sexes, not we are better than you, because then we're just doing the same thing as men who think they're better than women. It's the same fucking thing.
Right. And honestly, what we really got to look at is everybody is different. Everyone is unique. We're all equal in the eyes of, like, if you believe in God, we're all equal in the eyes of God. We're all equal in a lot of different ways. But there are some things that I am personally better at than others. And there are things that others are better at than me. Mm-hmm. And we just have to accept that. It's like, in general, guys are physically stronger. Women are better at welding, in general. As crazy as that sounds, it is absolutely my ex-wife kicks ass at welding.
But female welders, actually, they love it. Yeah, they love welding, and they're very, very good at it.
Thank you, May. Misandry is just as toxic as misogyny.
Yes, I was just about to read that because, oh my God, I totally agree.
Wait, sorry, what did she say? I wasn't able to hear it.
Misandry is just as toxic as misogyny.
Oh yeah, it's just flipping the genders around. Like it's
like racism and reverse racism. It's both racism.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's exactly. Like, I think that sometimes that is lost. What equality is equal. Like, you know what I mean? And men have unique health issues. Just for men that only men experience. Obviously, like, you guys have prostates, we don't. Like, for example, like, there's just one thing.
Right. It's like, I'll never have cervical cancer. Just not going to happen.
Right.
But you'll never have prostate cancer. Just not going to happen.
And there's a lot of things that, like, little boys are socialized to believe in the ways they're supposed to act and, like, what a tough guy is and all this stuff, just as, like, women are socialized to believe really negative things too. It's like, how is it's not non-existent for men. You know what I mean? That's just not true. And we're ignorant to think otherwise.
Little boys get to grow up with the stereotype of you have to be, tall and muscular to look good to, the opposite sex, where little girls, get brought up with you have to sit and be quiet and be pretty and wear a dress and don't talk too much and don't think.
You have to be a Disney princess, but then you also have to be a strong, empowered woman.
Yeah,
right.
That's such a conflicting message.
Well,
and I tell my daughters, it's like, if you really want to go for a Disney/Pixar princess, go for Merida.
I love Merida.
She's the blend of it all.
Now that there are some things that I'm just like, the whole Disney princess thing. I love Merida as a Disney princess, but do you know who I love more? Mulan.
Mulan is awesome.
Mulan.
I mean, yeah. If I was gonna be a Disney princess, I'm not gonna lie, I always wanted to be Belle just because I like books and reading and I like to sing.
Well, hey, the way that they portrayed Belle in Once Upon a Time was freaking brilliant. Because she was...
Should I?
Once Upon a Time was such a good show.
All I have is time, my friend, so I might have to delve into this world.
I would say Once Upon a Time is a good watch. And if you haven't gotten into it, try Supernatural. But I tell everybody to try Supernatural.
But if you can't go through the full 15 seasons, watch the first 5. You can be fine without the rest, but you have to watch the first 5 because it's one contiguous story. Well,
I am always looking for new TV. Like I just find I also get really emotionally attached to characters. I don't
I am so emotionally attached to supernatural characters. It's not funny.
Oh God, I'm not gonna lie. I sobbed on the very last episode of Supernatural twice.
No spoilers.
Spoilers.
Not spoiling it, but I mean that's 15 years of the same series.
I was texting E while I was watching it, going, "Oh my God, I can't believe it!"
And I'm like, I know exactly where you are.
Take watching.
A deep breath. Push through it. It's worth it.
And I'm like, I can't watch this. He's like,
yes, you can, and you will.
That was literally me with Friends. I remember watching the finale live, calling my friends, bawling that it was over. I know, Friends was like my show when I was a kid.
Wasn't Friends like the series finale about when Phoebe started yelling about the plane's phalanges?
Left phalange.
Oh my God, I about died on that.
I loved that Phoebe threw that around so much in that show because at one time her name was like Dr. Regina Phalange.
Oh yeah, and she also went with Princess Consuela Banana Hammock.
Yes.
And then her husband went with Mr. Asshat.
People shit on Friends. I think it's comfort TV. I find it's comfort I don't know if you guys have shows like that where you just put it on in the background and you're like, this is like
Futurama.
Which I finally started watching.
Futurama is my comfort cartoon.
My shows are Friends. What else? Oh, and The Office. Those are my comfort shows.
My comfort show that I can just have on in the background. And you guys you might laugh, and I don't care. Garfield and Friends. I'll fight you over this.
I love it.
Well, you know what they say about people with anxiety, that apparently they are not big fans of watching new shows because they can't anticipate what's happening. Like, or they find it anxiety provoking, like not knowing what's going to happen. So that's why I like to rewatch series like Parks and Rec, The Office, Friends, because I know what to expect.
I find myself when my depression and anxiety hits, that's when I find myself rewatching my favorite shows.
Mm-hmm.
And when I feel, in a more uplifted mood, that's when I tend to watch new shows.
Well, you know what's interesting? When I'm really depressed, I feel like I can't even process a new show. Like my cognitive abilities decline so much.
That's with me in video games. I can't play a new game. I have to play an old one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same way. When I'm really low, my go-to video game is Animal Crossing because I know what to do. I know what to expect in it.
Too.
Oh, God.
Bexy, I'm gonna have to add you as a friend on there because I love that show. I find it's not that show, the video. I find it so comforting because it's not like high stakes or anything.
See, now I need to get a Switch.
That's exactly why I love it.
I
play
Stardew Valley. That's my comfort game.
Oh yeah, no, but it's really interesting, like that like obviously when like I guess in a really depressive episode, like our cognitive abilities probably are really really affected.
Yeah.
Like to do anything. Like I just came out of one, like coming back from, I don't know if you guys also deal with this with change. I find with change that it makes me really anxious and depressed when anything changes. So like new job, like move. I find it really hard to move to new apartments. Like I find that a very anxiety provoking situation.
I don't even care. I could be in the best mood in the world. You say it's time for me to move, and I'm done. I'm out. Yeah. Check it out. I'm done.
That's what I'm going through kind of now is like I need to make a decision about whether or not I want to move, and I get I get emotionally attached to physical spaces. I get emotionally attached to apartments, to houses, because they are like my cocoon. They make me feel safe.
I get that. Like I miss the house I grew up in more than anything in the world. I love that house. And if it ever goes up for sale and I'm in a position to buy it, I am buying it. Even though at this point, it's practically a shithole. I will rebuild that damn thing because, yes, that is the house I was raised in. I get that same thing. I'm so emotionally attached to it.
Yeah.
And I hate the changes that were done to it.
Like it's, and I don't know about you guys too, but I find also even in my apartment, like I find my bed very safe. Like if I find there's like little pockets of where I live that I feel safer and more cocooned. Like I don't know if that's just a me thing, but like when I'm sure everyone here can relate to like not being able to get out of bed.
Yeah.
But so bed becomes a safe place for me. If I'm sad, I feel safe in bed for some reason.
I get that.
I will say one TV series that I can watch even when I'm in the worst of moods, even when it's brand new episodes I've never seen before, The Boys.
They film in Toronto.
Really?
So they do. So if they ever, when they start filming again, I'm going to go take some pictures and I'll send them to you. How about that?
Awesome. Oh, by the way, you ever watch the movie Stand By Me?
I think I did. Is that where they walk on the train tracks?
Yep. I lived 7 miles from where it was filmed. That's where I was raised, just outside of there.
Oh, that's like an ideal childhood. Well,
I walked across those tracks, literally, when I was about the same age.
That's so interesting.
Including the bridge. The bridge.
I was raised in a town that was very close to where they filmed The Shawshank Redemption.
I've seen that movie too. That is
The Shawshank Redemption?
They filmed the prison scenes in Mansfield Reformatory in Ohio.
Oh wow!
They also filmed part of Tango and Cash there.
Oh wow!
What's that?
An 80s movie.
Oh, I'm born in '87.
Yeah, see,
and
child.
I'm about to turn 34 in February, my friend. Oh, I have a question.
I'm turning 44 in February.
Okay, wait. I have a question for you guys and for the chat. Do you guys ever feel like you look at your age and you feel like you haven't like accomplished enough, or you're like not where other people are in life, and like you're like I'm constantly saying like, oh, I should be more like accomplished, or I should have like a salary job, or you know what I mean? Like I'm constantly thinking like I should be further in life than I am, and I'm such a failure and I'm such a fuck up. Like I find that that's like really sitting with me a lot lately.
I will say for me, not so much, but I did accomplish a fuck ton by the time I graduated high school. I had been, I mean, yeah, it was T-ball, but I was an all-star in T-ball, played soccer a bunch. I was a professional taiko performer, which is Japanese drums. I used to tour up and down the West Coast, getting paid good money doing it. I write music. I've nearly had been signed a couple times. Got close, but not quite. I'm just always pushing myself and always on the go, and no matter how depressed I am. And and all my jobs I've had since I got out of high school have been online, some kind of tech job. So when there's downtime at work, and if I'm in a comfortable position at work, I don't want to push myself any further. I push myself in other ways because I'm hyperactive. I have ADHD. I have to have my mind engaged in something, unless I'm curled up in bed and can't get out of it.
I sometimes feel like my mental health and the kind of struggles I've been through, like I feel like I'm walking through molasses when other people are just walking normally. Do you know what I mean? And that it's helped me so much.
I feel like I've been kind of dragged a bit on my life lately. My wife is a force of nature. There's no other way to put it. I never thought that I'd ever be a homeowner. I am. I never thought that I'd ever have more than 2 kids. I have 5. I never thought that I would ever own a car that was bought right off the lot, brand new with less than 10 miles on it. Done it. I've accomplished quite a bit. And there's still a lot of things on my list that I'm like, I feel like I really failed on. Like, I still haven't gone skydiving. I want to. I'm going to be 44 and I still haven't done the jump. I've never been in a company long enough to really establish myself as being one of those ones where like everyone looks up to and goes, wow, that guy's been here forever. My longest job, I just got out of over a year ago. I was there for 6 years. I accomplished a lot in my 6 years, but I've never made it to management. I've never made it to upper management. I've never made it. I've been a quote unquote engineer, but I've never done development or product design or any of that kind of stuff. And I really feel like I've kind of squandered that. And my income, my hourly income really hasn't changed much since 2006. Here we are 2021 and I'm still making roughly the same.
Oh, I have to say that for me, I spent 37 years thinking I wasn't supposed to accomplish anything. I was just supposed to be of use to other people and not worry about anything about myself and what I wanted, because that wasn't important to me at all. And when I started to place more importance on myself, that's when I started to do the things that I've always wanted to do. I started to write more. I'm writing a book of poetry right now. I've been submitting things and getting published. I've been published. And that was the biggest dream I had when I was in high school. And I've always wanted to be a published author. And now I am. And I'm inordinately proud of that. I never thought that I would be able to lose the weight that I have. And it has taken me 3 years to drop 300 pounds. But damn it, I've done it.
Wow. That's cool. Like, these are all accomplishments. Like, I feel like sometimes I like my accomplishments. Like, I guess I could say the same thing. I've lived in 3 countries successfully. I learned another language. I've rescued personally over like 25 dogs and 60 kittens and found them homes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Look
at the other things that you've done. That you have, you're a recovering alcoholic. That's an amazing thing.
4.5 years.
4.5 years of sobriety.
Yeah. People died trying to get sober. Yeah.
Yes. And you've done it. And that's absolutely amazing. I mean, you really need to give yourself a whole lot more credit, because you are stronger and braver and more beautiful than you realize.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
The inner dialogue, right? That's the mental illness, right? It's the low sense of self-worth. It's the like, oh, I accomplished this, but it's not good enough. It's just this constant battle. It's exhausting, right?
And I wouldn't be surprised if you went into your first AA meeting and went, wow, I'm one of the younger ones here. What kind of a fuck up am I? You know what? That part does not matter. What matters is that you realized you had a problem when you did, and you did the right thing in spite of the difficulties. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was 29 and I was thinking to myself, like, oh, I'm the youngest alcoholic to ever live, which is not true, because I met a lot of 17 and 18-year-olds in AA, to be honest. And, thinking like, oh, I'm not going to, here's the other thing that I'm also realizing too. There's a lot of things that I thought I wanted, like marriage, home ownership, and children. But I'm starting to realize that maybe that's not something I want. It's just something that I was told that I should have.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
definitely. We have some responses in the chat too, because Javern says, I'm 27 and have done absolutely nothing but live with my parents and waste my time eating food, and now I realize everything I wish I had done, and it pisses me off, and I'm trying to scramble. May says, no, I realized everyone who was my age when I thought my age was old made it seem more easy. Javern says, 2006, that's the year I needed to learn everything. If I had known then, I would have spent my main portion of my life so far being what I was meant to be.
Never too late to start becoming who you were meant to be. Never
says,
too late.
What do you think you were meant to be? And Javern says, a well-known artist, photographer. I also just wish I had known the good spots for rare trains in Kansas City. I didn't know until they were gone. And then
Davern also said that Bixie is a powerhouse.
But that's the thing,
I got all blushy at that. I couldn't read it.
I think we can't ever see ourselves clearly. If only we saw ourselves how others saw us. You know what I mean? And the power and the accomplishments that other people see that we hold, right? Like we could,
right. I mean,
it's so true. Like I stand in awe of people, and like I don't stand around and think people are shit or people are garbage and, oh, this person's the worst and all this stuff. Like I don't. I usually find like the good in people, unless they're absolute sacks of shit. But I could stand in front of every single person, like you guys and the people in the chat, and say, I already know, I can tell these people are like smart, intelligent, like resilient people, and just it's so hard. It's so hard to see yourself clearly. You know what I mean? It's such a struggle.
Well, it's that whole thing of you're so close to the forest you can't see the trees.
Yeah. It's so true. And somebody said, like, I remember reading this. It may have been on Reddit. So there's some really profound things on Reddit.
There are.
There are really. But I remember somebody said, they were like, okay, you stand and you look at yourself in the mirror every single day. Of course, you see like the flaws. Like you memorized your face. Like other people don't do that. Like there's little like tidbits of information like that.
I remember actually reading that comment.
Did you? Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious.
There's like little nuggets of wisdom, and I save like little things that people say that are so profound, because like really I've read some really inspirational things on Reddit and some really insightful, wonderful things. A lot of it's depressing and horrifying, yes, but there is nuggets of hope and truth there. You know what I mean?
Oh,
yeah,
definitely.
One of the best nuggets of advice that I have ever heard, and it was one of my dad's friends gave to him. So my mom, around Christmas years ago, she fell and suffered a traumatic brain injury. She wound up bruising both frontal lobes, bruising the whole back area, and had bleeding on the brain, and almost died. And her recovery was very slow, very torturous. There were days that she wouldn't recognize anybody, including her own husband, me, her firstborn. But she would recognize one of my uncles every time. It was weird, but brain injuries are weird. And some days were slightly better than others. And my dad was just getting so caught up on the backslide days, the bad days. And what the friend said, and it wound up getting written up on the whiteboard at the Anxiety Treatment Center, because I mentioned it too, which is, don't focus on the waves, focus on the tide. There are high points and low points with waves, but what is the tide doing?
Yeah. It's true, and I like the analogy of like life is a wave. Like there's a lot of really, I can't think of them right now off the bat, but like there's a lot of really good like little sayings I learned in AA just about the nature of life and just sort of you know, how it works. Like and some days like right now I'm kind of boiling it down to just keep going. Like sometimes that's my mantra, is just keep going, you know? Like I wish I could look through my saved posts on Reddit and see, like, I hate that I'm saying that.
You can, but I mean, man, if you comment like I do, you're gonna be scrolling for days.
You know, I'm free to comment on Reddit. I care what strangers on the internet think of me.
Well, I mean, just 2 days ago was my 7th cake day, just to give you an idea.
Oh, mine is my highest rated post was what do you call it? It was a meme from 90 Day Fiance. I'm not even joking. Oh, this is a good one. The 10-80-10 rule, as in spend 80% of your time and energy in the present, focusing on what you can do to better your life. Only allow your attention / mind to be 10% in the past and 10% in the future. Otherwise, being too in the past can add to depression, and being too future oriented can create a lot of anxiety.
I like that.
That's a good one.
I also like this quote. It is only with the heart that one can be seen rightly. What is essential is invisible to the naked eye.
Ooh, that's good.
I like that. And I love this one. It was from Albert Einstein. The key to success: work hard, play harder, and don't talk about your future plans.
Ooh, that's good too.
Because nothing demotivates like talking about what you're going to do.
Yeah, that's really true. Here's a good one. Arguing with an idiot is like playing chess with a pigeon.
Oh, yes.
A skilled chess player ever, but all the pigeon's going to do is knock over the pieces, shit on the board, and strut around like it won. I love that.
That's why I'll be like, when you get into an argument, like trying to debate someone and they're coming across like, okay, this guy obviously thinks they've won and they're just an idiot. I'm like, I'm done playing pigeon chess. And just like, and that's where I end the conversation.
Oh, here's another one. I told myself many of the things you listed yet despite. I learned that yet, Y-E, yet, means you're eligible to.
Oh, wow.
This is a really good one I learned. Was hope. Always have hope. Hold on, pain ends. That's a really good one.
Another one I really like is the difference between a dream and a goal. Timeline.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is
I have one that really struck me the other day. Like because I have used this terminology in talking about myself, and this sort of just blew me out of the water when I read it, and I went, oh my God, I should have been thinking about this all the time. I thought I was broken and needed fixing, and that wasn't true. I was hurt and I needed healing, and that's a completely different concept.
Oh,
that's a good one. Another one of my favorites is that which you cannot find within, you will never find without. And that's meant to be taken both ways.
Are these all from Reddit?
No, that one I heard... God, I don't even remember where I heard that one.
I am not on Reddit as much as I probably should be. I am a Twitter gal.
Reddit is like a...
I have a Reddit.
Yeah.
I just passed like my second cake day, but...
I'll say that Reddit is like a blend, like somewhere in between the chaos that is Twitter and the frightening part that is 4chan. And 4chan is just the light version of 8chan. Don't go to 8chan unless you want your soul to just flee.
Here's one from Reddit. Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than fear. I like that. Because I deal with a lot of fear. Like, my fear is very debilitating. And it, like we were talking about, for me, it manifests physically, my fear. I feel it. And, this is a good acronym. FEAR. False evidence appearing real.
I've heard that one before. I love that. I'd forgotten it.
Or face everything and recover. Like our fear stops us from doing things. Face everything and recover.
My favorite one of that is actually Face Everything and Rise, because my Twitter handle is Bexy Will Rise.
Gee, where did that Will Rise come from?
Oh, gee, I think that came from my non-biological brother who hates me less than most.
That's true. I don't love anybody. I hate everybody at different varying levels. And I hate my kids least of all.
Oh, yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like, oh, yeah, like it's varying, degrees of hate.
I saw this the other day, and I thought this is really good, especially for people who have, like, tried to do positive affirmations and find that they don't always work for them. So a positive affirmation is, I love myself. But if that doesn't work for you, then you should try, even when I struggle to love myself, I can still pay attention to my needs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, people will say, today is going to be a great day. But you can also try, I can accept today for what it is and will acknowledge both the ups and downs.
That's good. I found, like, acceptance is the answer for me a lot. Like, a lot of times when I'm, like, disappointed or whatever, like, usually accepting things as they are instead of trying to change what I would rather them be gives me a peace.
Like, people, instead of looking at yourself and saying, I am fearless, you can say, I'm aware of my fear and I can choose when to face them.
Yeah.
And also, going back on that whole courageous thing, you ask anybody who has ever done anything courageous, odds are they'll tell you, I was scared shitless during that time.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Like, for me, yeah, fear is a natural part of life, right? Like, I know that I have, like, fucked up fear responses, and many people with trauma do, but it's really, yeah, I love the saying, courage is not the absence of fear, right?
Right.
But yeah, something is,
people say don't sweat the small stuff, but what people don't realize is sometimes to people who have depression, anxiety, PTSD, sometimes the small stuff feels really big. And when it feels really big like that, we all have to remember to offer compassion to ourselves.
Yeah.
It's self-compassion is really important, right? Like, we so easily have compassion for others. Why can't we have it for ourselves,
Because we are our own worst critics.
Exactly. Instead of, looking in the mirror and say happiness is going to come easily to me, you have to, you can choose to say, sometimes other emotions feel stronger, but I'm becoming open to the happiness too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Once you get to that point where you find that happy and you grab onto it, I will tell you there is nothing like that feeling in the entire world.
Yeah. All this stuff is so hard. I guess it's all a journey, isn't it? Like, if we figured it all out, what would be the point?
Yeah.
Like,
it's not the destination that's the goal. It's the journey that's the goal.
Yeah, it really is. Because it's like the Bob Ross thing. Like, if we did everything perfect, if we got all the things that we thought we wanted or we thought we should have, then there would still be the next thing, right? Oh, like, I get this house, but I should get a bigger house.
Ooh.
Or
have you seen The Good Place?
I have.
Oh.
Yes, I
Did
have.
you watch it all the way to the end?
No, I didn't.
Because they actually tackle that at the end.
Really? Oh,
yes.
No, all these shows I'm going to have to probably watch now. But like I said, good thing that's the responsible thing to be doing right now is watching television, right?
if it keeps you sane and keeps you going, how is it not responsible?
I'll watch, like, Grey's Anatomy and be like, I can totally be a doctor. And then I'll watch Law and Order and be like, I can totally be a lawyer.
I watch Grey's Anatomy, I can totally be a doctor. Get a little cut, blood, faint. Nope, guess I can't be a doctor. But my wife is a huge fan of Grey's Anatomy. And you heard that Ellen Pompeo's leaving the show, most likely.
Oh, she is? No, I didn't hear that.
The rumor is this is her contract year. And she has hinted repeatedly that she doesn't feel like signing another contract.
That show's been on for like 17. Isn't it the 17th season?
That's been around a long time.
I remember watching that show in high school, and like, yeah, that's
Jeez, make me feel old. That show came out, I was already an adult working at a $20 an hour job.
I was already an adult when that show.
That's all right. You weren't even an idea when I was watching Rocky and Bullwinkle.
is I still look around. I'm like, I need an adult, and then I realize I am the adult. I'm like, no, but I need a more adult, like another adult, like a real.
You need an adultier adult to help you adult.
Adult. I'm like, I'm the adult in this situation. No fucking way. Like, in what world would this happen?
Oh no, have a kid.
Moments every day.
Oh, have a kid, and you're perpetually stuck there. How the fuck am I supposed to do this? And now I'm watching my son,
my little brother, and I think I'm the adult that's in charge of you now.
Oh, I'm looking at my son. He's about to have his first kid. He never wanted to have kids. And he is like, you just look at him, and he has that deer in headlights look all the time. And the baby is due on February 1st. So.
Oh, he's only got a little bit of time to prepare.
Yeah, no, he, so here's the story. She was medically sterile. And she got stuck with a quarantine time with him after he had just gone through a breakup, and she had just gone through a breakup. They became buddies. Yeah, well, my son apparently has a superpower. He can impregnate sterile women because so like her going months without a period was completely normal for her. But all of a sudden, there's a lot of things that she'd like to do that she couldn't. Like foods she couldn't eat and behaviors that she couldn't do. And then she went to the doctor. They tried all these different tests. And they went, you know what? Let's just try pregnancy test. Positive. Even her doctor looked at the test and went, holy shit. Because she is supposed to not be pregnant. They're together. They are now actually a couple. They have an apartment. They're ready to go. The kid's on the way. She is thrilled to death because this is the miracle baby that she never thought she would ever have. Mm-hmm. And she gave him, I think it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks when she found out that she was pregnant, for him to decide if he was in or out. And she's like, look, I would give you more time if I had more time, but I'm already beginning of the second trimester. I need to know where you're at because I need to get ready. And on the last day, he went, you know what? I'm in. And I think he's going to make a great dad. Everyone says it. Everyone that knows him, like, he's going to be a great dad. And he's like, I really don't think I'm going to be. And it's like, and that's why you're going to be a great dad.
That's actually really true. It's like, that's a really cool. Because if he thought he was going to be the greatest dad in the world, it's like, oh, sir, oh, no.
Oh, no, that kid is going to wreck you.
I'm starting to think that maybe I'm just going to love animals. I think that might be my thing. You know? Just, well, because I told you guys about all the, like, I have my 13-year-old Ruby, my little Chihuahua.
I saw a little quote the other day. It says, diamonds are only a girl's best friend until she gets a dog.
It's so true. Like,
but then the puppy eats the diamond. And then the dog after that poops out a vampire. At least according to some authors.
You know, the love I have for my, like I was saying to you guys before, like, I think I love my dog more than I love my brother. Like, I have, like, a profound love for my dog, but I just don't for my brother. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that. I'm not very close with my siblings.
Well, okay, when growing up, I loved getting the flu more than I love my sister. Now, she's she's a ride or die.
Oh, yeah. No, I guess, but that's the other thing about families, I guess. I'm just not close with my siblings at all. But I think the family structure that we have always had is that people just aren't very close in my family. You know what I mean? Like, no one is particularly close.
Our family is always close. Like, my mom's aunts and cousins and uncles were my aunts, cousins and uncles, too.
Yeah.
And same with my dad's side. Well, my dad has 9 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
I'm the oldest of all my cousins. I don't know what it's like to have an older cousin, but I know what it's like to have an army of cousins behind me.
Yeah. I guess it just, it depends on, like, the internal family system things is really interesting as well. Like, how that shapes us, and all that stuff. Like,
actually, what's funny is when you were talking about, you know, seeing your child and talking to yourself as an adult, May went, this is Rachel talk. And now you just brought up the internal family systems, and that's Rachel talk.
It's fucking fascinating. Because, like, our families fuck us up so much we don't even know. Like, we do, but...
And then we internalize that shit in our own internal systems becomes fucked up.
But it's so true about the parts. You know, the whole parts about how like there's like the protector, there's like all the like little
The
things
manager.
Yeah, and how they like protected us as children. Because like think about how vulnerable you are as a child, right? Like you're so entirely dependent on your parents or whoever your caregiver is. And then if you have incompetent ones or you have ones that aren't very good.
Oh, you mean ones that were raised
damaging
under the
for sure.
Dr. Spock's theory of raising kids?
No, I
Don't
haven't-
do anything? My wife actually kind of pointed out, she's like, all the problems with society today with kids that are just so unruly and just out of control and have parents that just don't parent anymore, they were probably raised by parents who read Dr. Spock's book that told them to be a good parent, just let your kids do what they want.
Yeah.
And it's like, the smoke's out of the bottle. You can't put it back in the bottle.
I think it's all just like think about all the like fucked up things that probably happened to our parents. You know what I mean? And like I feel like the whole point of being a parent is just trying to do better than the parents how your parents did with you.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I agree. Like my dad never heard the words "I love you" from his parents. Never heard the words "I love you." It was that classic. My grandparents were greatest generation. World War II kind of stuff. My grandfather was a merchant marine during World War II. And it was when dad comes home, mom lists off who needs a whipping. Dad takes off the belt and goes and whips the kids. My dad, he did spank, no belt. And he still tells me, I love you, and to my sister. Me, I don't spank. I hug my kids all the time, and I tell them I love them every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And my little boy, who's 3 years old, he's doing that whole, I'm a tough toddler boy. And I'm trying to show him, it's like, look, it's okay. Like, if you just need a hug, you don't need to lash out and act tough. Go ahead. Humble yourself. Break down. Say you need a hug. Trust me, I would rather give you a hug than be pissed off at you because you're throwing the pillow at me at 11 o'clock at night when you're supposed to be asleep.
I think we're all just learning from our parents' mistakes, right? And I'm hopeful for that. I'm really hopeful for that because I think people are just talking about this stuff more. You know what I mean? Like how we're just like mental health and trauma and saying I love you and like how not saying I love you fucks up your kids and stuff. But yeah, definitely like Bexy, what you were saying, like it is very damaging and it's painful. It's very painful. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Carrying that with you and just not having your needs met emotionally, physically, or, even just like your survival needs, like food and housing and stuff.
And I've been homeless. That's when you're homeless. Guaranteed most people who are homeless, like genuinely homeless, not the fakers out there, they're depressed. It's almost impossible to avoid. Yeah, there are some people that actually thrive on being homeless. And you know what? More power to them. There's always the exception.
Yeah,
But, I mean, when you don't have a place to call your own, you don't have, like, anything really, it is really, really hard to find any reason to go forward.
Oh, I can't even imagine that. Like, the hopelessness.
Yeah, it's like, what am I supposed to do? Get a job when I have no place to bathe, wash my clothes?
Mm-hmm.
How am I supposed to get a job in that condition? Fortunately, I had some friends that allowed me to couch surf, which allowed me to go ahead and take showers, wash my clothes, allowed me to land a job, and allowed me to get my own place. But man, if it wasn't for that, when there were those times where it's like, hey, I'm in my car now. Thankfully, it's paid off, but I have to go find places to park where I'm not going to get towed. And I have to park, and then because California, they don't like you sleeping in your car, you have to be able to go and park your car where police won't go looking. It's Right. I mean, I can see if you're parking in private property, okay, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if you're just parked on the side of the street and you're not you're not bothering anybody, you're in public space, you're not like, oh my God, I'm sitting downtown next to a parking meter. I'm like out in a suburb or whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't understand those silly rules sometimes.
When you were talking about hugging, there's a thing I like. It says hugging is good medicine because it transfers energy and gives the person hugged an emotional lift. You need 4 hugs a day for survival, 8 for maintenance, and 12 for growth. Scientists say that hugging is a form of communication because it can say the things that you don't have the words for. And the nicest thing about a hug is you can usually give one without getting one.
True. Except there are those people that are no touchy. So I always tell them.
There are no touchy people.
Yeah, and I always tell them, it's like, look, I'm sending you an emotional hug right now. I know that you don't want a real one. And every once in a while, they'll stick their arms out. And I'm like, yay!
I am very happy to say that I know someone who is very much a no touchy person, but will tell you, move out of the way. I want my Vexy hug.
Nice.
Oh, that's nice. Well, it's it's tough now. Like, I live alone, so I'm getting like no hugs. So the isolation is like that's
when you hug the puppy.
I'm sending.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Well, I'm sending you an emotional hug about 3,500 miles.
Well, very far. Yeah. We don't know.
We'll send you all the virtual hugs you can handle.
Oh, meanwhile, Bexy said that if she ever comes to California, she's not leaving until she gets a hug from me. And I told her, now I know how to keep her in California.
Yeah, I refuse to leave until I get a hug from my non-biological brother.
I refuse to let you leave California.
That will be how I get trapped in California.
Yep.
It's okay to be trapped in. I mean, it sounds like a nice place.
Well, right now, just to give you an idea of how bad people are trying to get out of here, to get a moving truck to get out of California costs almost 10 times more, no joke, than to get a moving truck to move into California.
Why are they leaving?
All the companies are leaving because the overly high taxes. California has the highest taxes in all the U.S. Plus, there's all these different regulations that are coming through and all these executive orders coming from the governor. And people are just giving up and just leaving. They're like, you know what? I'm tired of living in this. I pay exorbitant taxes, yet there's literal shit on the streets. I could drive. There's a lot of places I could drive and pulled up my camera and just start recording. And it's just a long row of tent city. In a lot of places. Yeah.
Well, the cost of living is very high in California, isn't it?
It is. Well, I mean, when you have really high taxes, that kind of causes that. You know, it's just, because it's like everybody's, okay, well, I have high taxes. Well, now it's going to cost me more to be able to make, what I need to live for groceries. Well, guess what? They also have to pay their employees, and their employees are getting high tax. They're getting high taxes at corporate level. And it's just a snowball effect where the cost of living just starts to skyrocket and people are just, I'm out. One of my realtor sold his house, moved to Texas. With the equity alone off of a house that he bought on 1/8 of an acre, he bought 2 acres and 3 times the house cash just from the equity. I was like, dude, stop tempting me.
Yeah, that's
but
part of me. Yeah, it's all this. There's all this upheaval too with COVID, right?
Oh yeah, but I mean, seriously, California it's been a slow going exodus since the 90s. But it's only been ramping up really hard in the last 5 or 6 years. Where, I mean, we used to have Campbell Soup Company. They're gone. We used to have Comcast here. All their centers are gone. Tesla's gone. All these big companies, they're just, it's too expensive now. We're gone. Thank God we still have Apple here and Google. But, I mean, all it takes is for one of them. But even Apple, even though their headquarters is in Cupertino, most of their operations is done in Texas.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when COVID is over. Sort of how it's changed everything. It's changing everything.
It is.
It is. Yeah, I would love to leave Toronto, but there's like I said, there's very few places to go in Canada.
Well, you know what? Napa Valley is amazing here in California. Just don't live in the town of Napa. Go in one of the outer areas. The cost of living isn't overly exorbitant. There's good paying. You get Bay Area pay. Here in Sacramento, I get Bay Area pay, but I get Valley cost of living. It's one of the little, beautiful little honeypots.
Maybe one day I'll immigrate to California.
Yeah, California's, I love this state. Don't care too much about the government, but I love this state.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. With all this change, it's making me reconsider what's important and what do I value and all that stuff. And so I guess we'll see what happens who knows when this will all be over, right?
Right.
That is true. Well, May says Silicon Valley has deflated.
Oh yeah.
And she's also sending hugs virtually and spiritually.
Oh, thank you.
All right,
Yeah.
but it has been 2.5 hours. This is the longest episode we've ever had.
Oh, my apologies. It's coming to 11:30 at night for me because I'm East Coast.
Yeah, and so I think this would be a good time to wrap it up.
That sounds good.
Definitely.
I just say thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for being on, Laura. This was amazing.
Thank you for coming on. This has been really, really great.
Honestly, would love to have you back on. Seriously.
Oh, thank
definitely.
you.
Yeah,
I would love to.
Yeah, so I'll be putting out the word again coming up in late spring, early summer, and I'll make a point to reach out to you specifically.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I'm definitely going to stay in touch with you guys, and thanks so much to the people in the chat. They're awesome. They definitely gave me pieces of wisdom that I'm going to carry with me and will definitely improve my life. So I'm really appreciative to them as well.
We have the best fans. We really do.
We do. Kat says it's been really great. And May says, never apologize. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, I'm Canadian. That's in our blood, right? We say sorry.
Kat says, yes, come back again.
Don't worry about it. We always say sorry.
Sorry. Yes, that's it. No, it was a pleasure. Thank you all so much. And thank you for doing this. And this is such a wonderful thing. And yeah, I'm so for this. All this removing the stigma and advocacy is amazing.
Thank you very much. And for everybody that's out there listening, hey, give us a like, follow us. I keep forgetting to say that. And Laura, and
like, follow, share the episodes that have resonated with you.
This one. So, and roughly just before a week comes up, I'm going to send you the stats on what we got today. Is even though I could get some of the stats live like tomorrow, they'll compile. Some of the sources take a few days to come in because like we go through Apple Podcasts, we go through Google Podcasts, Podchaser, Deezer, GeoSavin, and a bunch of others. We're all over the place, and some of those they don't report right away. But when I get that, I'll let you know how we did this tonight.
Sounds good. I'm so excited to hear it. It was so amazing to meet you guys. I'm sure we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And I'm 2 days away from my Facebook page. It's also facebook.com/mentallivecast.
Oh, I'm definitely going to like you guys on Facebook for sure.
And there's also amimental.net, which has little bios. And hopefully I'll get around to it. Yeah, hopefully I'll start getting some extra features. Oh, yeah, we're also on TikTok at am_I_mental.
I love TikTok. I'll be checking you out there as well.
Nice. Yeah, I actually created a subreddit, just haven't put any love into it yet.
Well, then I'll have to follow you that subreddit too.
That's fine. I will say, because I use my personal account, if you go looking through my personal account, you're going to find that I can be rather combative. I didn't get banned from Twitter with an IP ban for nothing.
You know, I love how he says rather combative. When he was on Twitter, I always called him my hellhound.
Yep.
That's a good ally to have.
Yep. If you watch Supernatural, you understand what a hellhound was capable of. Oh yeah. Anybody went after Betsy, I came with a vengeance and a fury.
Well, you're good.
Sometimes I wouldn't even see it, and he would be like, I took out the trash for you.
Yep. Yep. And I love it when they block me. I went, hey, look, the trash took itself out. All right. So, again, thank you, everybody. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, I'm E.
And I'm Bexy.
And we'll catch you next week.
Bye, guys.